Chapter 4477. At this moment, Xiaohua naturally wouldn't put Duanmu Qing in his eyes and wouldn't be so bored as to argue with her. Xiaohua faintly smiled. He raised his hand and took out a silk handkerchief from his bosom. He said, "For me to be able to say such words, I naturally have my reasons. I won't be like some people, whose mouth is full of nonsense and only one word is true." Saying this, Xiaohua placed the silk handkerchief in front of Gongshu Yiming, saying, "Miss Yiming, do you think this is useful for your cultivation of the 5 Qi Thunder?" This is? Seeing Xiaohua take out a silk handkerchief instead of thunder-developing bead or thunder-developing wood, let alone Gongshu Exin, even Gongshu Yiming blushed. She looked at Xiaohua with some confusion. After all, silk handkerchiefs were mostly for private use by female cultivators. Men and women giving silk handkerchiefs had other meanings. Damn it. Others might be puzzled, but Duanmu Qing was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. She already thought that Xiaohua was revealing something to Gongshu Yiming in front of everyone, flirting in front of her. "Xiaohua, what do you mean by this?" Gongshu Exin was straightforward, shouting, "I told you to take out the thunder-amplifying bead. What do you mean by this? Why don't Miss Exin take a look first?" Xiaohua turned and smiled at Gongshu Exin, saying, "You have a certain level of attainment in formations, you should be able to see it." "Oh." Gongshu Exin looked at Gongshu Jingyi. That Gongshu Jingyi just looked at her with a smile and didn't say anything. He was also young. How could he not know the jealousy between young people? Seeing Gongshu Jingye not saying anything, Gongshu Exin said, raising her hand to take the silk handkerchief. When she took the silk handkerchief, she used her silver moon pupil. Just one look and her expression changed. She looked at Xiaohua in disbelief. The clear eye technique in her eyes didn't disappear. She exclaimed, "Xiaohua, it's true. Don't worry." Xiaohua smiled, "Don't you know my reputation?" Che. Gongshu Exin retracted her silver moon pupil, curling her lips, saying, "What reputation do you have? That day in the cave, you cheated so many people." Then, Gongshu Exin didn't give the silk handkerchief to Gongshu Yiming. Instead, she held it in her hand, smiling at Yiming. "Sister Yiming, can I make a deal with you? Can you lend this item to sister to study?" "What is this?" Gongshu Yiming looked confusedly at the silk handkerchief in Gongshu Exin's hand and asked. Gongshu Exin opened her mouth and seemed to have some misgivings. She didn't give the handkerchief to Gongshu Yiming and transmitted to Gongshu Yiming, "This is the Immortal Palace's 5 brocade cloud painting." Ah! Gongshu Yiming was ecstatic. She almost cried out, "How is this possible?" The 5 Qi Thunder was the purest form of cultivation in the Immortal Palace. The Gongshu clan also had it, but the flaws were obvious. They couldn't fix the flaws in their cultivation method during the tribulation. Therefore, Gongshu Yiming had always wanted to get the cultivation method of the 5 Qi Thunder from the Immortal Palace. This 5 brocade cloud painting was not a complete lightning cultivation method, but it contained the 5 Qi Thunder. If Gongshu Yiming had this item to study, she could easily break through her current bottleneck. Gongshu Yiming screamed and quickly covered her mouth, smiling at Xiaohua. "Thank you, immortal friend Xiao." Xiaohua smiled, "No need to be so polite, if there's anything you don't understand." Without waiting for Xiaohua to finish speaking, Duanmu Qing, who was at the side, retracted her hand and withdrew the awkwardness in everyone's eyes. She interrupted Xiaohua's words and said with a hint of anger, "Xiaohua, I did not want to lower myself to your level when you used the matter from several hundred years ago to frame me. But then you used filthy words to slander my Duanmu clan's kill order. This matter involves the dignity of my Duanmu clan, so I represent the Duanmu clan to invite you to join the battle to bury the hatchet." When Gongshu Jingyi heard this, he unconsciously snorted from his nose and said unhappily, "Duanmu Qing, you are in my Gongshu family's pavilion, representing the Duanmu family to challenge Xiaohua. What is the meaning of this?" Duanmu Qing was startled. and immediately realized the impropriety of her words. She hurriedly smiled and said, "Great-granduncle, it is all Junior's fault." Junior was really disheartened by this Tao sect cultivator. "My words were wrong." Junior apologizes to great-granduncle, and apologizes to the elders of the Gongshu clan. Finishing, Duan Muqing did not give Gongshu Exian and the others a chance to speak. She said to Xiaohua, "Xiaohua, you and I originally had a personal grudge. Now, the battle to bury the hatchet at Zhai Xinglu is about to start. You may not be a disciple of a great clan, but you are in Zhai Xinglu now. You can still join the battle. How about it? In the battle to bury the hatchet, let's settle our previous grudges." This time, Duan Muqing kept on talking about personal grievances. Gongshu Jingyi just looked indifferently and didn't say anything. Gongshu Exian glared at Duan Muqing and said coldly, "What? Angry out of humiliation? All your tricks have been exposed, you can't live with your face? You want to be silenced by the battle to bury the hatchet? One look and you can tell he is a bluff. You can't beat Xiaohua, so you want to use the power of the Duanmu clan to suppress him?" Then, Gongshu Exian waved her hand at Xiaohua and said, "Xiaohua, ignore him. You are not a disciple of a great clan. Why are you participating in the battle to bury the hatchet?" Senior Exian. Duan Muqing looked at Gongshu Exian and said seriously, "Xiaohua may not be a disciple of a great clan, but he is in Zhai Xinglu, and this is before the opening of the Star Moon Palace. He also has a grudge with Junior. This meets the conditions for the battle. Of course, if Xiaohua does not wish to participate, Junior will not force him. He only needs to apologize to Junior in front of everyone during the battle to bury the hatchet. Junior may consider forgiving him, and can also consider asking the sect to take back the kill warrant." At this point, Duan Muqing glanced at Xiaohua and said, "Besides, if a man of indomitable spirit does not even dare to accept such a small challenge, what right does he have to call himself a man? What right does he have to cultivate the powerful lightning energy?" Xiaohua laughed involuntarily when he heard Duan Muqing's provocation. He really did not know how to answer. How could he, a human Mahayana realm cultivator, be so calculative with this guy? Even if he only revealed the strength of a peak 4th grade Yuan Qi, it was not possible to bet with him, right? Seeing that Xiaohua did not speak, Duan Muqing naturally thought that Xiaohua was timid. She added fuel to the fire and said, "How about this, Xiaohua? If you do not wish to participate, you only need to apologize to me here, and I will forgive you." "Humph, Duan Muqing." Gongshu Exian snorted before Xiaohua could say anything. "If you are so capable, why don't you fight Xiaohua one-on-one during the battle to bury the hatchet? Don't think I can't see your sinister intentions. You just want to borrow the Duanmu clan's blade to kill Xiaohua." "Oh?" Xiaohua asked curiously. "Exian, could it be that during the battle to bury the hatchet, it doesn't have to be two disciples who have personal grudges?" "Of course." Gongshu Exian was a little angry. "Since the various clans are participating, we have to consider their reputation. It doesn't have to be disciples with personal grudges. Don't be fooled. He can't beat you, so he wants someone else to do it." Xiaohua. Duan Muqing did not care that Gongshu Exian had exposed her thoughts. She smiled and said, "If I were you, I would definitely go up and give it a try. After all, my Duanmu clan's kill order is still in effect. Any Duanmu clan disciple can kill you, and they can even return to the sect to receive a reward. If you are lucky enough to win, the kill order will no longer exist, and you can cultivate in peace in the future." "Fine." Xiaohua looked at Duan Muqing, who was acting like a clown, and sneered in his heart. Since Xiaohua didn't have to do it himself, he could just find a Fortune Gate disciple from the Shenhua mainland. Hence, Xiaohua nodded and said, "This Xiao agrees to fight with you." "Good." Duan Muqing's eyes flashed with a cunning look. She smiled and said, "Looks like you are a man." Chapter 4478. Good. Gongshu Exian at the side clapped, looking at Imo Jianli and praising, as expected, there are great scholars everywhere. I didn't think that not only is Daoist Shao so heroic, even the cultivators he befriends are more forthright than some of the aristocratic family disciples. Duanmu Qing gritted his teeth and looked at Gongshu Exian, but did not dare to say a word. He turned to Gongshu Ming and said softly, Miss Ming, after the battle to bury the hatchet, I will give you an explanation. This matter is definitely not what Xiaohua said, a female cultivator's view of a person changed in an instant. Now, Gongshu Ming looked at Duanmu Qing with a faint sense of unfamiliarity. She smiled, actually, it doesn't matter. The words, doesn't matter, was more painful than a sword stabbing into Duanmu Qing's heart. He forced a smile and looked at Xiaohua, Daoist Xiao, I will see you at the battle to bury the hatchet. I know. Xiaohua nodded, if Duanmu Liangsheng can come, that would be the best. Liangsheng did not come to Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, I have disappointed Daoist Xiao. Duanmu Qing smiled and nodded at Gongshu Ming before turning to leave. But Xiaohua's words almost made him fall, I know. You have many granduncles, it doesn't matter who comes. Seeing Duanmu Qing leave in a sorry state, Gongshu Exian felt a little disappointed. She looked at Xiaohua apologetically, Xiaohua, I am sorry, I dragged you into this. I didn't expect you to have a grudge with him. Not bad. Xiaohua smiled, you have changed a lot in 200 years. If it was you in the past, you would not have said this. Che. Gongshu Exian rolled her eyes at Xiaohua, you think you are the only one who did not waste your life? Gongshu Exian could not help but cover her mouth and laugh. Her eyes looked at Gongshu Ming and Gongshu Jingyi, revealing more coquettishness. Gongshu Jingyi couldn't help but laugh. He knew that Gongshu Exian had always been arrogant. Not to mention the ordinary disciples, even the famous female disciples of the four clans weren't worthy of her attention. And today, Gongshu Exian's attitude towards Xiaohua was definitely something that Gongshu Jingyi had never seen before. This didn't allow him to not think about it. Gongshu Jingyi looked at Gongshu Ming's excited expression and Gongshu Exian's shy expression. He smiled slightly and said, little friend Xiao, you probably don't know about the battle to bury the hatchet before the various clans entered the Star Moon Palace, right? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at Gongshu Jingyi thoughtfully. He then nodded and said, immortal friend is right. This Xiao is not a disciple of an aristocratic family, so how could I know the reason for this battle? However, from what Duanmu Qing said, it should be a bet between the aristocratic clans to settle their grudges in Jiaxing Lu. Gongshu Jingyi heard that Xiaohua didn't call him senior and unconsciously frowned. Then, he looked at Xiaohua's vigilant expression and felt relieved. However, the more Xiaohua acted like this, the more interested Gongshu Jingyi was. Not to mention Gongshu Exian's admiration for Xiaohua, just the previous dispute between Duanmu Qing and Xiaohua because of Gongshu Ming, and Gongshu Ming actually watched from the side and didn't say anything to stop it. Gongshu Jingyi knew that Gongshu Ming might have some inconvenient reason for transmitting voice to him. Since Gongshu Ming was happy to see the weak Xiaohua and the powerful Duanmu clan fight, then Gongshu Ming's meaning was obvious. Gongshu Jingyi wouldn't let go of this opportunity to recruit Xiaohua into the Gongshu clan. After all, a formation master stronger than Gongshu Exian, even if his cultivation wasn't high, to the Gongshu clan, he was very precious. Therefore, although Gongshu Jingyi was unhappy, he was still very approachable and said, little friend is right. However, this bet is a little different from the usual. The reason for this bet is actually very simple. Because the Star Moon Palace is an ancient relic, all the clans of the hidden immortal continent want to get a share of the profits. And the grudges between the clan's disciples naturally can't be severed, so in order to prevent the grudges of the hidden immortal continent from being brought to the Star Moon Palace, all the clans discuss to have a bet before entering the Star Moon Palace. Although this bet can't wipe out all the grudges, it can at least make people feel that there is some balance. Maybe they can get along peacefully in the Star Moon Palace and not cause trouble for everyone. Xiao Hua smiled and said, fellow immortal already said that grudges can't be severed. How could it be resolved with a bet to bury the hatchet? Of course this is the original intention. Gongshu Jingyi smiled and said, after a few times, all the clans also felt that this was inappropriate, but the night is long and there is no mood to sleep. Instead of waiting for the Star Moon Palace to open in Star Picking Tower, why not find some fun to bet? So it's like this. Xiao Hua nodded, in that case, it makes sense. But when Gongshu Jingyi heard this, he immediately stopped smiling and said word by word, this bet to wipe out all the grudges is real. Every disciple of the clans will not be merciful. Even the elders of the clans will form a group of judges to judge every bet. So, little friend Xiao, you can't let your guard down. Granduncle. Gongshu Exian hurriedly asked, Xiao Hua dealing with that Duanmu Qing is of course no problem, but the Duanmu clan has a lot of experts. Any disciple of the 6th level of essence power will not be easy for Xiao Hua to resist. Gongshu Jingyi glanced at Xiao Hua and said, according to what I know, the leader of the Duanmu clan is Duanmu Lianheng. He is famous for his bad temper. That year in Longevity Town, all the clans were watching and no one made a move. When Duanmu Lianheng arrived, he punched Buddha Sek Cai Mei until her expression changed and ordered the Longevity Town's Buddha to retreat. When Duanmu Lianheng retreated, he was blocked by Manjushri Bodhisattva who had just attained nirvana. However, seeing Duanmu Lianheng in this state, Dongfang Jiang Liang of the Dongfang family blocked Manjushri Bodhisattva with his sword. From this, it can be seen that if little friend Xiao wants to bet with the Duanmu clan, I'm afraid. Gongshu Jingyi stopped. Gongshu Yiming smiled and said, Granduncle, with you here, with my Gongshu clan here, how can Daoist Xiao be at a disadvantage? Gongshu Jingyi smiled and said, I'm naturally not afraid of Duanmu Lianheng, but I don't have a good reason. Granduncle, you're wrong again. Gongshu Yiming hurriedly said, Daoist Xiao is proficient in formations and thunder techniques. This junior in Exian can't compare to him. If this kind of person is used by my Gongshu clan, wouldn't Granduncle have a good reason? This depends on little friend Xiao's opinion. Gongshu Jingyi looked at Xiao Hua meaningfully and said, maybe he'll be a guest, or have some marriage. Little friend Xiao's strength may not be enough to be a guest, but in terms of marriage, it's possible. Hearing about marriage, Gongshu Yiming slightly raised his elbow and touched Gongshu Exian. Gongshu Exian was stunned and suddenly blushed. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, Granduncle, this. I'm afraid this won't work. I'm not familiar with Xiao Hua. Exian, Granduncle didn't seem to be talking about you. Gongshu Yiming smiled and said, why are you so anxious? I. Gongshu Exian, who was always proud and arrogant, stuttered, not knowing how to answer. She really respected Xiao Hua, but to talk about love, it seemed too early to talk about it. Actually, you don't have to take it seriously. You and Daoist Xiao first, put on a show, give Granduncle an excuse, and deceive the Duanmu clan. Gongshu Yiming suggested, after this, who will know about this? But what if the fake becomes real? Gongshu Exian was a bit sad, looking pitifully at Xiao Hua and said, Xiao Hua, if I agree, you won't pester me like that Duanmu Qing, right? Looking at Gongshu Exian, who had a high cultivation in formations, but was ignorant of the ways of the world, and even spoke like a sinner, Xiao Hua smiled and said, many thanks. I won't make things difficult for you. Not at all, not at all. Gongshu Yiming smiled and said, little sister Exian often talks about Daoist Xiao in front of me. She really respects you, but she doesn't understand, and doesn't understand what this means? How come I don't know? Gongshu Exian looked at Gongshu Yiming with shame and anger. I just feel that Xiao Hua is powerful, I don't feel anything else. That day Gusu Qiu Di also said the same. There were many Gongshu clan disciples in the pavilion. At this time, a few girls wanted to come over. But when they heard Gongshu Exan mention Gusu Chio Di, they looked at each other and sat back, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Gongshu Ming and Gongshu Exan were very close. She didn't care about Gongshu Exan's shame and anger, and said, "No matter what you think, if Xiaohua has nothing to do with you, granduncle can't fall out with the Duanmu clan. What do you say? Then he has something to do with him." Gongshu Exan looked at Xiaohua, her face red, and said in a low voice, "Good." Gongshu Jingyi smiled and said, since Exan also agreed, "I'll take over Xiaohua's matter, cough cough." Xiaohua touched his nose, coughed bitterly and said with a smile, "I appreciate everyone's good intentions. A mere Duanmu Lianheng isn't worth me retreating." Gongshu Jingyi frowned and said, "Little friend Xiao, now is not the time to act on impulse. A real man should know when to yield and when not to." Gongshu Exan also forced a smile and said, "Xiaohua, I know I don't understand things, and always cause trouble. Today's matter originally had nothing to do with you, but I dragged you in, so, you don't need to consider me. First pass this test." Chapter 4479. Good. Xiaohua heard Gongshu Exan's words and clapped. "I was hesitant before. To be honest, Exan, your formation skills are not bad, but you are too arrogant. You never put others in your eyes. You don't know what's important. You may not be strong in the future. Today, because of your words and your willingness to acknowledge your mistakes, I have decided to ask someone to take you in as a disciple and impart to you the Tao of array formations." Then Xiaohua looked at Gongshu Ming and said, "And you, Lady Ming, your 5 Qi Thunder cultivation is not bad. However, the cultivation method is not authentic. It even shows signs of deviating from the essence of a lightning cultivator. This has something to do with your character. You can also consider it. If you have any ideas, you can come find me with Exan after we reach Star Moon Palace." Xiaohua, what are you talking about? Not to mention Gongshu Ming, even Gongshu Exan was shocked. She looked at Xiaohua and asked, "Immortal friend Gongshu, thank you for your good intentions." Xiaohua did not answer. He cupped his hands towards Gongshu Jingyi and turned to leave Gongshu family's pavilion. Mo Jinli also hurriedly cupped his hands and followed. Xiaohua. Gongshu Exan did not seem to understand Xiaohua's words. She wanted to chase, but she still said, "If you don't want to do this, I will talk to granduncle. How about asking him to find star-picking Lu?" "Stop." Gongshu Jingyi glared at Gongshu Exan and scolded. "Granduncle." Gongshu Exan felt wronged. "How can you let Duanmu family bully people like this?" "Granduncle." A Gongshu family disciple who was originally sitting at the side stood up and looked at Gongshu Jingyi and said softly, "This Xiaohua seems not simple." Confucian families really attached great importance to etiquette. When Xiaohua and the others came over, because Gongshu Jingyi didn't speak, the disciples of the Gongshu family didn't say a word. At this time, when Xiaohua, an outsider, left, they all opened their mouths. A tall man nodded and said, "That's right. If we did not see him expose Duanmu Qing's tricks, just hearing his last words, we would think he was a noble person. But since he was so calculative with Duanmu Qing, how can he be a noble person? He must have something to rely on. The question is, what does he have to rely on?" Someone spoke again. Exan, the silk handkerchief that Xiaohua gave you, what is it?" Gongshu Jingye thought of something and hurriedly asked. 5 brocade cloud painting array. Since they were all disciples of the Gongshu family, Gongshu Exan had nothing to hide. Hiss. Gongshu Jingye gasped and exclaimed, "The Sun family of the Immortal Palace? Could it be that his backer is the Immortal Palace? If that's the case, no wonder he doesn't put my Gongshu family in his eyes." A disciple of the Gongshu family said self-righteously. That's right. The other female cultivator nodded sourly. Didn't he say it already? We need to find a master for Exian and Ming. If it's not an immortal official from the Immortal Palace, who can be their master? There's no need for further discussion. Gongshu Jingye's face turns cold, no matter what this Xiaohua's background is, and what backing he has. As long as he doesn't have any conflict with my Gongshu family, it's fine. And, the matter of the 5 brocade cloud painting, no one can leak it. Yes, we understand. The disciples of the Gongshu family all replied in a low voice. Also, Qingping, go to Zhai Xinglu and see if they have any news about Xiaohua. Buy it at all costs. Gongshu Jingyi instructed another woman. Yes, disciple will go now. Gongshu Qingping replied and hurriedly left. After finishing the arrangements, Gongshu Jingyi looked at Gongshu Minghu and said, Minghu, come here. Let me ask you, how many cultivators did Zhai Xinglu select to enter the Star Moon Palace? Zhai Xinglu. Did something happen? Gongshu Minghu hurriedly went forward to answer. Not mentioning Xiaohua, he brought Mo Jinli out of the pavilion, looked at the direction, and walked down another flight of stairs. Senior. Mo Jinli followed for a moment, looked left and right, and said in a low voice, Junior doesn't know what you're thinking. However, Junior sees that the Gongshu family doesn't have any evil intentions, and the Duanmu family is really powerful. If Senior doesn't use the Gongshu family, I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with that Duanmu Qing. Oh, don't worry about that. Xiaohua smiled and said, I don't put that Duanmu Lianheng in my eyes. How can I not see through Duanmu Qing's provocation? If it wasn't for the Duanmu family's kill order, I wouldn't even care about him. Mo Jinli obviously didn't believe Xiaohua's words, but he could only nod and say, Senior, as long as you're confident. Oh right. Looking at Mo Jinli, Xiaohua said again, previously, I wanted to let my disciple take you in as a disciple, but then I thought of a good friend of mine who is also a Confucian cultivator. He's more powerful than my disciple, so why don't I let him teach you the real Confucian cultivation method? I didn't explain it to you at the Gongshu family. Alright. Thank you Senior for your kind intentions. Mo Jinli hurriedly replied. Previously, Xiaohua had a premonition that he couldn't take in too many disciples, but when he saw Gongshu Exian and Gongshu Ming's aptitudes, he was moved to take them in. As he pondered, he thought of Wen Chu, the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the other clones. Although he could only take in 7 disciples, he had several clones. If nothing unexpected happened, each of his clones should be able to take in 7 disciples. Wen Chu could teach Gongshu Ming the 5 Qi Thunder, the Thunderbolt Immortal could teach Gongshu Exian the Tao of Array, then Wen Chu could also teach Mo Jinli the 5 Qi Origin. But seeing Mo Jinli's absent-minded appearance, Xiaohua naturally understood what he was thinking. He smiled and was about to say something, when a faint clear light swept over. Then, when this clear light touched Xiaohua and the others, it immediately dissipated. It was very strange. If Xiaohua wasn't a Mahayana realm cultivator, he wouldn't have noticed anything. Strange. Xiaohua was stunned. His eyes turned and he was puzzled, who's following me? Could it be, the Duanmu family? Could it be that they can't even wait for a challenge to bury the hatchet? Thinking about this, Xiaohua quietly released a strand of Buddhist consciousness. Buddhist consciousness was naturally more concealed than the light of clear sight, not to mention that Xiaohua's avatar had already attained the Buddhist consciousness of Namo Maitreya Buddha. However, just as Xiaohua released his Buddhist consciousness, he saw a faintly discernible shadow floating behind him, quietly approaching. Damn it. Xiaohua frowned. He was really angry. His body moved slightly, blocking in front of Mo Jinli. He raised his left hand, condensed spiritual power in his hand, and calmly made a move. But at this time, to Xiaohua's surprise, the shadow left Xiaohua and Mo Jinli and flew to the other side of the corridor. The corridor of Zhai Xinglu was very large, more than 100 feet long. Xiaohua and Mo Jianli were on the left side. And the shadow was flying to the right side, more than 100 feet away from Xiaohua. It didn't have the intention to attack at all. Xiaohua also unconsciously condensed spiritual power in his hand, quietly waiting for the result. He didn't believe that in the 3 continents, within 100 feet, there was anyone who had a greater advantage than him. Just as Xiaohua saw this and didn't release his spiritual power, what made Xiaohua even more surprised was that the shadow only hesitated for a moment, then immediately flew over. Of course, after flying over, it stopped, and the shadow became even dimmer, as if it was observing something. Senior. With Mo Jianli's abhijna, he naturally couldn't detect the appearance of this shadow. He was a little confused as to why Xiaohua suddenly blocked in front of him, and said curiously, "Senior, I suddenly thought of something." Xiaohua smiled slightly, and said without turning his head, "Come with me." As he spoke, Xiaohua lifted his feet and walked towards the stairs. "Yes." Mo Jianli didn't suspect anything, nodded, and followed. Xiaohua and Mo Jianli left, and the shadow also hurriedly left. However, after a while, Xiaohua's figure appeared in the corridor again. He looked at the place where the shadow disappeared, stroked his chin, and thought, Zhai Xinglu doesn't restrict flying, but most cultivators will not fly unless there's something urgent to show their respect for Zhai Xinglu. Not to mention that this cultivator is so stealthy. At this moment, the disciples of Zhai Xinglu seem to have something urgent to do, and they aren't at their shifts. Could it be that this cultivator did something unfavorable to Zhai Xinglu? However, after a while, Xiaohua denied this. After all, Zhai Xinglu belonged to Xingyu, and Xingyu was founded by Fairy Xingyu. Although Fairy Xingyu didn't reveal herself, she was still an immortal from the immortal realm, and her abhijna was self-evident. Who would dare to pluck the hair from a tiger's body? Since he had come to this conclusion, Xiaohua naturally turned around, wanting to turn back. However, at this moment, another ray of clear light swept over. Just like before, it stopped when it saw Xiaohua, then retracted. Of course, Xiaohua was prepared this time. As if he didn't notice anything, he turned around and walked towards the stairs. Behind him, another shadow vaguely flew by, heading towards the corridor. Hee hee. When the shadow disappeared, Xiaohua smiled and thought to himself, shadows appear again and again. I'm afraid there's a problem. Even if this shadow has nothing to do with Zhai Xinglu, I still have to go take a look. Otherwise, wouldn't my understanding of the hand of karma be in vain? Thinking of this, Xiaohua leaped up and headed towards the end of the corridor. There was also a flight of stairs at the end of the corridor, but the stairs led upwards. At the same time, there was a bow that was shaped like a crescent moon. Xiaohua flew in front of the bow and scanned it with his divine perception. He had already sensed the aura of a defensive array on the bow. He pondered for a moment, and a light flashed around him. The appearance of a small nose and small eyes appeared, and he rushed towards the bow. Chapter 4480. Swoosh. A dual-colored cloud descended and shrouded Xiaohua's figure. Xiaohua's concealing technique was also revealed. Moreover, under the cloud, the jade pendant in Xiaohua's bosom shone with a strange brilliance. When this brilliance touched the cloud, it immediately left Xiaohua. Naturally, the cloud also disappeared. Looking again in front of Xiaohua, there was a small hall. Several Confucian cultivators at the 6th level of essence power were holding their respective imperial artifacts, standing there on guard, eyeing Xiaohua like a tiger eyeing its prey. Among them, a general with an average stature and bulging muscles all over his body whispered, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" "Me?" Xiaohua was taken aback. He didn't know how to answer. Moreover, he knew very well that this was a secret signal. How could he answer without a secret signal? However, looking at the Confucian cultivator at 6th grade origin Qi, Xiaohua sneered and replied, "This one is a good friend of the Star Moon Palace Master. I was just wandering around when I had nothing to do," Xiaohua originally wanted to say that he found this place a little strange, so he came over to take a look. However, before he could speak, the general spoke coldly. There was a hint of dissatisfaction in his voice as he said, "Why are you dawdling like this? Why aren't you coming over?" "Oh." Xiaohua was taken aback. He really didn't expect this sentence to be the so-called secret signal. These Confucian cultivators really keep up with the times. Of course, since the secret signal had been matched, he didn't say anything else. Bai Qingyu's experience had already told him that if he wanted to pretend, he had to pretend until the end. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to see the truth if he gave up halfway. Although Bai Qingyu, heaven-concealing ridge, and ancient Bell Mountain already belonged to the Fortune Gate, he still didn't know who was the real mastermind behind the scenes. Even the 3 great sages of the Great Sage Hall didn't know. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't say anything and walked into the hall. This hall was similar to the one Xiaohua had seen before. There was nothing special about it. However, there were many more Gongshu family disciples inside the hall. Moreover, everyone was sitting with their heads down and didn't talk to others. When Xiaohua walked in, no one raised their heads to look at him. Therefore, Xiaohua looked around and found a place where there weren't many people and casually sat down. He also slightly lowered his head and only released his Buddhist sense to look at the situation around him. What surprised Xiaohua was that the cultivators in this hall were all Confucian cultivators, and they were all above the great grandmaster realm. Many of the cultivators were even wearing things that concealed their cultivation base. Xiaohua's cultivation base was extraordinary, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to see through it. Hee, this is getting more and more interesting. Seeing the situation before his eyes, how could Xiaohua not know that he was already in a very delicate situation? Moreover, he had coincidentally uncovered a mysterious veil. He was looking forward to seeing what was behind the veil. Unfortunately, Xiaohua was still overthinking things. In less than half a cup of tea's time, the military generals who had been guarding the door earlier walked in, looked around, and said, "Today's gathering was rushed, so not many people came. Let's not talk about anything else. I just want to tell everyone that the previous plan will be put on hold for now. If there is no new information, everyone should not take any action for now. Just enter the Star Moon Palace and do your own things. I have a question." Without waiting for the military general to finish speaking, a cultivator called out coldly, "Fellow immortal, please speak." The military general raised his hand and pointed. "I believe that all of you are like me, fellow immortals, and have put in a lot of effort for today. We naturally entered the Star Moon Palace for one purpose, but, towards the star-picking tower." "Shut up." Without waiting for the cultivator to finish speaking, the military general roared angrily. A tricolored ball of light condensed in his hand, and he shouted, "Don't tell me you don't know the taboo?" Yes, I know I was wrong." The cultivator hurriedly apologized and said, "I just wanted to say that we have been preparing for a long time, and now that we have a clue, why did we suddenly give up this?" The military general was obviously stunned. He didn't expect someone to ask. He then turned to look at another cultivator. That cultivator pondered for a moment before saying, "Actually, this is also a secret that you don't need to know. However, considering that all of you have made a lot of preparations, we may have a chance in the future. Thus, Master told me to tell you that the current situation is a little different. This is because the Star Moon Palace Lord has appeared today and brought back 2 cultivators of unknown origins. Furthermore, one of them is a human Grand Ascension stage cultivator. This is not something that we can deal with. Thus, our plan will be postponed." A human Grand Ascension stage cultivator? How is that possible? The military general exclaimed, "I've never heard of a human Grand Ascension stage cultivator in the Tao sect. I don't care if you believe it or not, but I do." The cultivator said in an indifferent voice, "This is what Master told us to do. You can all disperse." Disperse? The military general faltered upon hearing this. "We're going to disperse just like that?" That's right, what else can we do? Do you want a human Grand Ascension stage cultivator to kill you with a single slap? The cultivator chuckled. Hurry up and leave. Even today's gathering was decided after much deliberation by Master. He wants to minimize your losses. The Star Moon Palace's Palace Lord is only a 7th grade origin Chi cultivator. How can we not be a match for her? The military general exclaimed, that human Grand Ascension stage cultivator. Perhaps he's just passing by. Shut up. The cultivator roared, Master will think about this matter. It's not up to you to speak. Hurry up and leave. If the Star Moon Palace finds out about this, we'll all be dead. If you knew something was wrong, you should have stayed outside Star Plucking Tower. One of the cultivators muttered. Cut the crap, hurry up and disperse. Another cultivator scolded in a low voice. Do you know what it means by, what's real is fake, and what's fake is real? I know what it means by, the most dangerous place is the safest place. The cultivator muttered in a low voice before getting up and walking toward a curved outline of a small door not far away. Seeing that the cultivator had left, no one said anything else. They all got up and slowly made their way toward the small door. Although Xiao Hua hadn't been here for a long time, from these few short sentences, Xiao Hua learned a lot. As he watched everyone leave, he looked at the cultivator standing next to him and muttered in his heart. If he were to make a move now, he would definitely be able to capture these cultivators and perhaps find out the truth. However, when he thought of Fairy Xing Yu's stingy attitude, Xiao Hua curled his lips slightly. Damn it, they seem to be after Star Moon or Star Plucking Tower. Moreover, it's easy to tell that the Tower Master of Star Plucking Tower is among them. Why am I getting involved? Fairy Xingyu has already made it clear that she doesn't intend to leave Star Moon to me in the future. Why should I meddle in other people's business? I just need to do a good job for the Merchant Alliance. If an immortal from the immortal world can make Star Moon into something like this, why can't I, a human Grand Ascension stage cultivator, do the same? While Xiao Hua was thinking, many cultivators had already left. Xiao Hua looked again and saw that several cultivators were already looking at him. He shrugged, blinked his eyes with Zhang Xiaohua's appearance, turned around, and followed the crowd through the small door. Outside the small door was another corridor. Xiaohua didn't see any other cultivators nearby. He was certain that this small door must be a defensive array of Star Plucking Tower. If it weren't for Star Plucking Tower spies, they wouldn't have been able to obtain such convenience. However, what did this have to do with Xiaohua? Xiaohua smiled, as if he had just watched a farce. He recovered his appearance and casually walked in a certain direction. The floors of Star Plucking Tower were the same as those seen outside. After passing through this small door, Xiaohua couldn't tell which floor he was on. However, he knew that Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu must be on the highest floor, so he walked up the stairs when he saw them. After walking through 2 pavilions, before Xiaohua could figure out which floor he was on, he heard a slightly oppressive voice above his head say, "There's no need to talk about this anymore. I've already made up my mind. If Murong Hui has any objections, feel free to look for me after we reach Star Moon Palace." Sweat. When Xiaohua heard this familiar voice, he immediately stood on the stairs and refused to move. Damn it, is this really the rhythm of my ascension? It's just Star Moon Palace, but acquaintances are appearing one after another. If it's not to settle the karma, why would they all appear here? Xiaohua stood there and waited quietly. Sure enough, after a few breaths, a graceful figure appeared in front of him. Wasn't it Murong Songyun? Murong Songyun was as graceful as before, but there was a trace of coldness between her beautiful eyebrows. Behind her, there were a few men and women who were around the 5th level of origin energy. Although their cultivation was similar to Murong Songyun's, they all lowered their heads and listened to Murong Songyun's reprimand. When Murong Songyun raised her head, she saw Xiaohua standing there with a faint smile on his face. At first, she was stunned, then her beautiful eyes instantly clouded over. Her body stiffened as she stared at Xiaohua, unable to say a single word. Immortal friend Murong. When Xiaohua saw Murong Songyan's reaction, his heart trembled. He smiled and asked, "We haven't seen each other for many years. How are you?" You. Murong Songyan stared at Xiaohua and breathed with all her might. Her already towering chest heaved up and down. After a moment, she took a deep breath. Rather than saying that she couldn't breathe properly, it would be better to say that she was inhaling the moisture in her eyes. Her mouth slightly stuttered as she asked, "You? Are you really still alive?" "Hee, of course." Xiaohua sighed and nodded. "Even if the Chu family dies, this Xiao won't die." "Chu family." Murong Songyan smiled. That smile was like 100 flowers blooming. "I would rather the Chu family die. I don't want." Murong Songyan looked around and said with a stunned expression, "Go and wait. Do as I say." "Yes, this subordinate understands." The few Confucian cultivators looked at Xiaohua in astonishment. They lowered their heads and quickened their pace. They rushed past Xiaohua and walked down the stairs. Chapter 4481. Murong Songyan walked in front of Xiaohua in a few steps, but the closer she got, the smaller her steps, as if she didn't dare to close the distance between them. Her eyes almost never left Xiaohua's face. When she got closer, she said, "Xiaohua, you really scared me to death. What happened that day? In order to save me, you fell from the sword diagram. I also wanted to rush down, but I was entangled by that damn bald donkey. I thought, since you died, I also didn't want to live alone. I wanted to die together with that damn bald donkey." At this time, 14th uncle finally arrived and solved my dangerous situation. But when I went to look for you again, there was no trace of you. Speaking to here, Murong Songyan stopped. His eyes flashed with extraordinary splendor, and his tone carried joy as he said, "I originally thought you had already fallen in the demon god's blood, but who would have thought, before I could even return to the clan, I would receive the abnormality of the demon god's blood." I really don't know how to describe the surprise at that time. Xiaohua, you are truly a person who is good at creating miracles. I didn't dare to believe that you could actually survive in the god-devil blood pool, and I didn't dare to believe that you were actually farming there after the god-devil blood pool disappeared. Did you know? In these 200 years, I have been to the god-devil blood pool several times and personally saw the drastic changes there. Oh, no, that place is no longer called the god-devil blood pool, but Xiao country. A country that is not a country of Confucian cultivators, nor a country of Taoism. A country that is named after a Taoist cultivator that they worship. A country that is bigger than all the countries in the hidden immortal continent. This country doesn't have a ruler, nor does it have any authority. Because other than the Taoist cultivator that is like a god in their hearts, there is no one else in the entire hidden immortal continent that can be the ruler of this country. Xiaohua touched his nose and bitterly smiled. "Miss Murong, there is no need to be so emotional. This Xiao only sowed some rice seeds there. Moreover, there is also the contribution of the literary saints of the various clans. This Xiao's actions are really insignificant. This might be insignificant in your eyes, and even in the eyes of other cultivators. It is merely a senseless act. But in the eyes of the hundreds of millions of citizens of Xiao Kingdom, what you have done is a miracle." Murong Songyan smiled and said, "You can imagine that the entire 9 provinces of the hidden immortal continent is a disaster. Thousands of li around the Xiao Empire is filled with rice fields. Every citizen who can settle down in the Xiao Empire has no worries about food or clothing. This Xiao Empire is the immortal world in the eyes of all mortals. I have been to Xiao Empire several times in the past few hundred years and witnessed the prosperity of Xiao Empire with my own eyes. Today, Xiao Empire has already become a rare paradise in the entire hidden immortal continent." Hearing Murong Songyan's words, Xiaohua also smiled. Back then, he thought that if he didn't plant grain in such a large swamp, it would become a real swamp in the future. Leaving it there would be a waste. That was why he let the disciples farm with him. But he didn't expect that this matter would cause such a huge commotion under the influence of the literary saints of the various aristocratic families. It truly had a kind of unparalleled spirit of securing millions of acres of fertile land and protecting the hungry people of the world. Don't do small deeds without doing them. This saying is indeed correct. Xiaohua nodded. This small kindness can sometimes become great kindness. At that time, this Xiao had never thought that there would be such a huge commotion. Oh, Miss Morong, that day, this Xiao was knocked unconscious by the heavenly king of the Buddhist sect into the demonic god blood swamp. When I woke up, not only was the demonic god blood swamp gone, there was only a large swamp. Even the disciples of the Chu family, Miss Morong, and the others were gone. This Xiao also doesn't know what happened in the demonic god blood swamp. If possible, can Miss Morong tell this Xiao what happened that day? Oh. Morong Songyun was slightly taken aback and said curiously, your words are a bit strange. These things were taboo back then, and no one would say a word about it. But since the sutra seeking extreme bliss is about to end, the filth between us Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect has long disappeared. The truth of the demonic god blood swamp has spread quite a bit in the hidden immortal continent. Could it be that you don't know? Xiaohua said with a smile, it's precisely because there are too many rumors that this Xiao has no way to judge. That's why I want to hear from you. Hee hee. Murong Songyun said with a smile, if you call me Jin Xiao and don't call me Miss Murong, I will tell you. Otherwise, don't even think about it. All right. Xiaohua's heart slightly swayed as he said, isn't it just Jin Xiao? Even if I have to call you Jin Xiao a million times, I am willing. Murong Songyun's face slightly reddened. She bit her lips and said softly, this is what you said. From now on, call me Jin Xiao once a day. As she spoke, Murong Songyun looked down the stairs and said softly, this time, I followed 7th granduncle to Zhai Xinglu because I wanted to take a look at the Star Moon Palace. Come with me to see 7th granduncle. He appreciates you. Along the way, I will tell you everything that happened in the divine devil blood pool. This. Xiaohua hesitated for a moment, but after a moment, he felt relieved. After all, he had already come to Zhai Xinglu, so he would definitely meet Murong Jiang. Previously, he had hoped to obtain the protection of the Murong family and Murong Jiang had also agreed. Today, he would be able to understand everything. Seeing Xiaohua hesitate, Murong Songyun's eyes flashed with apprehension. When Xiaohua spoke, he said, all right, bring me there. I also want to see him. Hee hee. Murong Songyun's face glowed. He seemed to be very happy and almost jumped up. He said, let's go. 7th granduncle will definitely be very happy to see you. Immediately, Murong Songyun brought Xiaohua down the stairs. As they walked, he told Xiaohua what happened after he fell into the divine devil blood pool. Actually, after Xiaohua fell into the divine devil blood pool, the Chu family's patriarch and elders took action. Murong Songyun didn't hold on for too long and left the sword diagram. Most of what Murong Songyun said was from the sage of literature, Murong Jun. Not sure if it was because Murong Songyun didn't know that Murong Jun obtained information about the divine devil puppet or because he didn't want to tell Xiaohua, but Murong Songyun only said that when the sage of literature took action and killed the heavenly king of Buddhism, the divine devil blood pool suddenly changed and stopped. At this time, Murong Songyun brought Xiaohua to the front of a pavilion. Xiaohua naturally didn't ask. He slightly nodded and sighed, I didn't expect that after I fainted, so many things would happen. If the sage of literature didn't come, you and the Chu family's disciples would have fallen in the divine devil blood pool. Murong Songyun shook his head and said, Xiaohua, you are wrong. In fact, all of this had been arranged in advance. I and the other disciples also knew about it. We also knew that we were bait. But we didn't expect the Buddhist sect's methods to be so ruthless. They actually used some soul cultivators' transportation channel. So, you have to remember, on the hidden immortal continent, the power of the various families is the real big hand behind the scenes. Even the high and mighty immortal palace isn't. Yes. Xiaohua sighed, otherwise, why would I want to shelter under the Murong family's power and avoid the immortal palace's attack? Hee hee. Murong Songyun laughed again. He reached out and pulled Xiaohua's sleeve. You have already done what you promised seventh uncle. I presume he has nothing else to say, right? Xiaohua opened his mouth. He wanted to explain something, but seeing Murong Songyun's smiling face, he swallowed his words. The Murong family's pavilion was similar to the Gongshu family's, but there weren't many people in the pavilion. Aside from a few men and women with similar cultivation to Murong Songyun standing around the pavilion, there was a very proud young man sitting on a chair. He was holding a yellow book and carefully reading it. This young man was Murong Jiang, whom Xiaohua met at the God-Demon Blood Pool. Before the Fiend God Blood Pool, Xiaohua was unable to see through Murong Jiang's strength. 200 years later, Xiaohua was able to clearly see through Murong Jiang's strength. This Murong Jiang was already a martial ancestor at the peak of the 7th level of origin energy, only one step away from stepping into the realm of literary saint. Presumably, Murong Jiang was the person the Murong family wanted to enter Star Moon Palace, right? Murong Jiang didn't even raise his head as he pulled Xiaohua into the pavilion. His eyes were fixed on the book, unable to move. Seventh uncle, seventh uncle. Murong Songyun excitedly called out, look who's here. N. Murong Jiang responded, but his right index finger was on his lips again. He dipped it in his saliva and flipped through the book, reading it with relish. Quick. Murong Songyun pulled Xiaohua and secretly said, quick, pay your respects to seventh uncle. He will definitely keep his promise, Xiaohua bitterly smiled. He slightly raised his hand and was just about to open his mouth when he saw Murong Jiang waving his hand and blocking his way. Murong Jiang lightly said, Yun, what promise did granduncle give you? As he spoke, the corners of Murong Jiang's eyes twitched. He glanced at Murong Songyun and Xiaohua, and then his gaze fell onto the book. However, just as his gaze touched the book, his entire body suddenly went still, as if he had thought of something. He raised his head, and his gaze fell onto Xiaohua like lightning. With a voice of disbelief, he said, Xiaohua. How come it's you? Yes, it's me. Xiaohua smiled and said, we haven't seen each other for 200 years. Immortal friend Murong is still as elegant as before. Immortal friend Murong? Murong Songyun's face slightly changed when he heard Xiaohua's address. He hurriedly pulled Xiaohua's arm, hinting him to change the way he addressed him. Murong Jiang looked at Xiaohua and seemed to understand something. He smiled and said, Xiaohua, this old man really didn't expect you to be able to come back alive from the divine devil blood swamp. Presumably, when Yun sees you, she will mention the matter this old man promised you. This old man understands Yun-er's thoughts. She has mentioned this matter many times in the past 200 years, but you have never come to my Murong family. Since we met in the Thousand Devils Sacred Realm Star-Picking Tower, this old man will be frank with you. This old man is a man of his word. If you are willing to be my Murong family's guest elder, this old man will immediately agree. Moreover, I will immediately report this matter to the family through Star-Picking Tower. When we come out of Star Moon Palace and return to the family, we will officially let you join my Murong family. Chapter 4482. Speaking up to here, Murong Jiang looked at Murong Songyun, who had lowered her head in silence, and lovingly said, this way, one of Yun-er's worries will be resolved. Seventh uncle. Murong Songyun's head lowered even more. Even her neck seemed a bit red. Her voice was as low as a mosquito's flapping wings as she said, Senior, why are you talking so much today? This old man is very happy today. Murong Jiang laughed, then pointed at Xiaohua and said, that day at the demonic god's blood pool, this old man was optimistic about Xiaohua, so I handed you over to him. Moreover, he didn't disappoint this old man. For you, he was shot down by the Buddhist sect's protector. His survival is naturally the will of the heavens, and also my Murong family's fortune. Seeing Xiao Hua again today, this old man is also very happy. As long as he agrees, this old man will immediately hold a banquet to celebrate his success, and also congratulate him in advance for joining my Murong family. Seventh uncle is very considerate. Boy, thank you. Although Murong Songyun was shy, she still used her arm to nudge Xiao Hua and said, Xiao Hua, why aren't you thanking seventh uncle? Hee. Xiao Hua's eyes slightly turned, and a meaningful smile appeared on his face. He replied, fellow Taoist Murong still remembers the promise from 200 years ago. This Xiao is very gratified. This Xiao came here today precisely for this matter. Although this Xiao doesn't plan to be under the protection of any family, this Xiao still wants to thank fellow Taoist for giving this Xiao that opportunity. When Murong Songyun heard this, the redness on her face immediately disappeared, and was replaced by a deathly pale face. Her eyes were filled with panic, like the petals on a branch falling down. Although Xiao Hua had seen through a lot, he still didn't dare to look straight into her eyes. Murong Songyun seemed to be crying blood as she asked in a low voice, Darling Xiao, is it because this concubine didn't do well? Is it because this concubine hasn't been looking for you these days? You should know that I already told you everything on the sword diagram in the God-Devil blood pool. I have some difficulties that I can't tell you about. I've already sacrificed a lot for a few opportunities. After I returned from the God-Devil blood pool, I completed the mission given to me by the clan. Only then did I get what I wanted. Over the years, I've been working hard to do things for the clan. Although I've been thinking about you, I've also been planning for the future, alas. Xiao Hua gave a slight sigh. He had never been ruthless towards female cultivators. Even if there were times when he felt that this female cultivator was deceiving him, he was not willing to say it out loud. Murong Jiang looked at Murong Songyun's appearance, and his face revealed a look of love. He looked at Xiao Hua and angrily said, Xiao Hua, did you see that? Which woman in my Murong family isn't rare? And Yun'er is the most outstanding one among these women. You don't know how much virtue you have accumulated in your previous life to gain her favor. If you dare to make her angry, this old man will definitely not forgive you. Seventh granduncle. Murong Songyun sobbed and said, This may be Xiao Hua's misunderstanding. Please don't blame him. Wait until he knows everything that the boy has done. He will definitely forgive the boy. Alas, you still want to wait for the future? Murong Jiang sighed and said, a moment's mistake may be a lifetime's mistake. This old man was also young. How can I let you repeat my mistakes? After saying that, Murong Jiang's imposing aura flourished. The true qi around his body swayed like an awakened lion. He roared and pounced towards Xiao Hua. A deafening voice sounded in Xiao Hua's ear, Do you know how much Yun'er has done for you? If you don't give Yun'er an answer today, this old man will definitely not forgive you. Xiao Hua slightly shook his head. He looked at Murong Jiang's true qi and didn't do anything. He just said, Why do you have to do this? Since we already have a good impression of each other, there's no need to expose it. Although Xiao Hua didn't make a move, his entire body was still standing there like an immovable wisdom king. Not only was his entire body's magical power restrained, there wasn't any flaw. Even his eyes were clear, there wasn't a trace of fear in them. Compared to 200 years ago when he punched Xiao Hua into the ground, there was a world of difference. Murong Jiang's heart was greatly alarmed. His Zhen Qi was originally probing and intimidating, but it couldn't help but be mixed with killing intent. He slightly raised his right hand. Just as Murong Jiang's killing intent appeared, Xiao Hua's expression slightly changed. His eyes that were like a clear stream began to set off small waves. Seventh granduncle. Just when Murong Jiang was in a bit of a dilemma, Murong Songyun hastily threw himself in front of Xiao Hua and blocked Xiao Hua behind him. Then, He raised his swan-like neck and resolutely said, "You can't blame Xiao Hua for this matter, and you can't force him. If he doesn't want to, there will be a knot in his heart. Even if he makes the boy happy for a while, he will never let the boy be happy for a lifetime. You feel that Xiao Hua has hurt your face. If you want to hurt him, you can do it. Boy is willing to be Xiao Hua's scapegoat." Murong Jiang narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiao Hua. He could tell that Xiao Hua was only at the 5th level of origin energy. He wasn't much different from the Xiao Hua he saw at the blood pool of gods and devils. Murong Jiang was sure that he could kill Xiao Hua in one strike, just like before. However, there was a kind of vigilance in his heart. The Xiao Hua in front of him was very dangerous. If he didn't succeed with this strike, it would bring about consequences that he couldn't bear. Seeing Murong Songyan blocking his right hand and giving him a way out, Murong Jiang sternly said, "All right, Yun, since you have pleaded for leniency, this old man won't make things too difficult for Xiao Hua. Moreover, this old man can give him a period of time to consider. If he still doesn't reply after the Star Moon Palace, then this old man won't let him take a single step into my Murong family." "Yes, thank you, 7th granduncle." Murong Songyun hurriedly expressed his thanks. With a distressed expression, he turned to Xiao Hua and said, "Xiao Hua, I don't know how to explain it to you. If you want to ask something, as long as it doesn't involve my Murong family's secrets, I can answer. I only ask that you can understand my heart." Forget it." Xiao Hua sighed and shook his head. This Xiao was wrong. The past is the past. If I want to use the past to look at the present, how can it not be a joke? If you still want to see this Xiao in the future, then don't do these meaningless things. This Xiao will take his leave." After saying this, Xiao Hua didn't say anything else and turned around to leave. "Xiao Hua, Xiao Hua." Murong Songyun turned around and chased after him. Seeing Xiao Hua's figure floating out of the pavilion, his face was filled with disappointment and surprise. 7th granduncle. Murong Songyun stopped and turned to look at Murong Jiang. He whispered, "Do you think? You all go out first, don't let anyone else in." Without waiting for Murong Songyun to finish, Murong Jiang interrupted him and said to the other Murong family disciples in the pavilion, "Yes." Several Murong family disciples answered and hurriedly left. At this time, Murong Jiang asked, "Yun, where did you meet Xiao Hua?" "Just a moment ago, the boy came out of the Zhangsun family." Murong Songyun explained the situation of meeting Xiao Hua and then asked, 7th granduncle, the boy felt that Xiao Hua seemed to have noticed something. "It's not just noticed something." Murong Jiang coldly said, from his tone, "You still don't know? He's already a bit wary of our Murong family." The boy also didn't think. Murong Songyun said with some regret, the boy did something wrong that made him suspicious. He's a character that the people of Shao country worship as a god. If our Murong family can win him over, it will certainly be of great use to our Murong family's development. "You're too idealistic." Murong Jiang faintly replied, "The so-called Shao country is nothing more than an ideal place for the secular people. In the eyes of cultivators like us, it's just a chicken or a pottery dog, not worth mentioning. If it weren't for the fact that the scholars of several families mentioned Shao country before, all the families would have some scruples about it. I'm afraid that Shao country would have already been invaded by the nearby Confucian country. This Xiao Hua. If he doesn't go to Shao country, not only will the Immortal Palace send a crusade, but the nearby Confucian country will also send troops. He will only die. Shao country will only perish." "Yes." Murong Songyun nodded, the boy also knows this, so he wants to seize the opportunity to take down Shao country. Speaking up to here, Murong Songyun was suddenly startled, his face somewhat pale, and anxiously said, 7th granduncle, the boy remembered, wasn't Xiao Hua suppressed by a demon king? How could he suddenly appear here? He must have suspected it because of this matter. The boy had already told second granduncle when he received the news. Xiao Hua is very strange, he actually didn't die after falling into the demon god's blood pool. There must be something fishy about him. If we can save him from the demon king. How is that possible? Murong Jiang coldly said, you think only you know the importance of Xiao Hua and Xiao country. The other families also know about it. But what kind of place is Bai Qingyu? Not to mention that the Demon King already has the strength of an 8th grade origin energy realm. If we want to save Xiao Hua, without a few scholars, it's impossible. But if the scholars make a move, it's a big taboo of the Great Sage Hall. Not to mention that Xiao Hua can't be saved, even the scholars might not be able to return. Moreover, Bai Qingyu is in the center of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. If we Confucian cultivators want to go in, without an organization like Zhai Xing Lu who is very familiar with the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, it's very difficult to not be discovered by the demons. So, for a mere Xiao country, which family is willing to take such a big risk? Granduncle, the boy also thought about this at that time. Murong Songyun was still vexed, but the boy bumped into him too hastily. The boy didn't think about how the boy would answer if the Demon King asked why he didn't save him, so the boy simply pretended that he didn't know anything. Perhaps, because of this matter, the Demon King saw something? Chapter 4483. That's only one of the reasons. Murong Jiang thought for a bit and nodded, not only that, you might be too hasty. I'm also a bit impatient. Secondly, I feel that Xiao Hua is different from before. I don't have the confidence to kill him. Murong Songyun shook his head, how is that possible? Boy has made great progress in 200 years. Could it be that he's one level higher than boy? Only Xiao Hua himself knows about this. Murong Jiang dragged out his voice and said, thirdly, wasn't he suppressed by Bai Qingyu's Demon King? How could he suddenly appear here? After we left the hidden immortal continent, we are no longer well informed. I'm afraid we don't know what happened in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Damn it. Murong Songyun cursed, boy knows. Some family must have reached an agreement with the Great Sage Temple and rescued Xiao Hua. That's why he has the courage to talk to 7th granduncle. And it's because that family is here that Xiao Hua came here. Murong Jiang was stunned again and nodded, yes, it must be so. Those who can talk to the Great Sage Temple are either first-class families or second-class families. The 4 great families are not in Zhai Xing Lu, so they can only be first-class families. That day in the God-Devil Blood Pool, Gongshu, Duanmu, Huangfu, Zhangsun, Yuan, Kong, and Meng families were there. I'm afraid it's one of them. Boy, let's go out for a walk. Murong Songyun couldn't sit still and said, buy some information from Zhai Xing Lu and see what happened in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Go. Murong Jiang sat back down and said, you don't have to take Xiao Hua too seriously, he is just a Dao sect cultivator, even if he has cultivated to the 7th grade of Essence Qi, he is still a loner, he won't be able to achieve anything big. If he can join our Murong family, it'll be good for you. If he can't, he'll be your enemy in the future. Boy. Murong Songyun bit his lips and said, boy, I don't believe. I can't win him over. Be careful not to draw fire to yourself. Murong Jiang picked up the scroll he had put down earlier and reminded him, do you still remember the matter of the star-picking tower in the Copper Pillar country? Since you've revealed the dragon bones to the East Sea Dragon Palace, don't act on your own initiative and show up at the auction. That time, Zhai Xing Lu had almost found out about the Murong family. The patriarch has told you before that you can't be too headstrong. You should let go of what you should. Yes, thank you for your reminder, 7th granduncle. Murong Songyun was startled and hastily lowered his head to reply. Go and come back quickly. Murong Jiang said with a smile, the challenge will begin soon. I think there will be a lot of excitement waiting to be seen. Yes, the boy understands. Murong Songyun nodded and hurriedly left. When Xiaohua came out from the Murong family's pavilion, a cold smile appeared on his face. Murong Songyun's guess wasn't wrong. Xiaohua was indeed moved when she saw Murong Songyun, but after a few words, Murong Songyun mentioned that she had gone to Shao Empire a few times. Xiaohua became suspicious. Since Murong Songyun was so concerned about her, how could he not know that she was suppressed by Bai Qingyu's Monster King? Even Ao Zhantian and Zhai Xingzi knew that Murong Songyun had the Murong family behind him, so there was no reason for her not to know. Of course, if it was Gongshu Yisun, a woman who didn't know about worldly affairs and only cared about formations, perhaps even with the Gongshu family behind her, she wouldn't know that Xiaohua was suppressed. However, Murong Songyun wanted to stand out in the Murong family, so how could she not care about the news of the 3 continents? How could she not know that Xiaohua was suppressed? If Murong Songyun had mentioned Bai Qingyu at that time, or even defended himself, Xiaohua might not have turned hostile so quickly. However, Murong Songyun's cleverness backfired and he wanted to play dumb until the end, which made Xiaohua realize that Murong Songyun was acting right in front of her. Since she was suspicious, Xiaohua thought about the battle at the blood pool of gods and demons and made many discoveries. Looking at the meeting at the stairs and Murong Zhang's behavior, Xiaohua was even more certain that Murong Songyun wasn't as affectionate as he seemed on the surface. This affectionate side was like the sweet words of a female praying mantis, but behind it, there was a lot of cruelty and exploitation. Therefore, after telling Murong Zhang about the battle at the blood pool of gods and demons, Xiaohua was ready to leave. Facing Murong Zhang's coercion, Xiaohua could only sneer. In the end, Murong Zhang had tested Xiaohua's strength at the blood pool of gods and demons. If Murong Zhang really wanted to fight, Xiaohua didn't mind taking revenge and bullying the weak again. As for whether Murong Zhang could take a punch from Xiaohua, that wasn't something Xiaohua would consider. Xiaohua walked to the stairs, and her face had already changed into Zhang Xiaohua's. This time, Xiaohua didn't want to use her original face even if she was beaten to death. She had only met Gongshu and Murong clan, but it had already made her so embarrassed. In the future, if she met other familiar cultivators, how should she address their elders? An unfamiliar 4th grade elemental energy cultivator wouldn't attract too much attention. Xiaohua wandered around Zhai Xinglu for half a day, and also came across a few places to trade. But what he hoped for didn't happen. Now, most of the cultivators who came to Zhai Xinglu were preparing to enter Star Moon Palace. Who would pay attention to the bidding? Even the things prepared by Zhai Xinglu couldn't be seen in Xiaohua's eyes. Apart from feeling some of the liveliness unique to the human race, Xiaohua didn't seem to have gained anything. Seeing that it was boring, Xiaohua had the intention to withdraw, and prepared to return to the top floor to rest. At this time, she heard a Zhai Xinglu disciple who was only at the 3rd grade elemental energy say, "Seniors, this junior just received news that the challenge to bury the hatchet will begin after a meal. This auction will end here. If seniors still want to bid, wait until after the challenge to bury the hatchet, then come back here to bid." Ha! That Zhai Xinglu disciple had just finished speaking when a burly armament cultivator called out, "Great, there's another show to watch. Brother Mu, I remember that you have some grudges with Brother Qingfeng from the Kong clan. Could it be that you also want to bury the hatchet here?" Beside the armament cultivator was naturally another armament cultivator, but this armament cultivator was slightly short, and his face was also yellow. This Brother Mu smiled coldly and said, "The matter between me and Qingfeng is not worth mentioning. How can it be resolved in the challenge to bury the hatchet? Besides, I came to Bright Moon Palace this time to seek an opportunity. It was an opportunity that I fought for with great difficulty from the clan. How can I make trouble for myself before entering?" "That's true." The fat armament cultivator scratched his head and said with a smile, "If not for some grievances that are difficult to resolve, who would fight here? Forget it, let's go and take a look." Xiaohua was beside these 2 armament cultivators. He looked at these 2 Confucian cultivators whose strength was only at the upper middle of 5th grade essence force and muttered in his heart, Previously, Xiaohua did not know the origins of Star Moon Palace and felt that it was very mysterious. He was afraid that only high-level cultivators from the three mainlands were qualified to come here. After Fairy Xingyu's introduction, Xiaohua gradually understood that Star Moon Palace was most useful for cultivators and demons around 7th grade essence force. However, when he arrived at Jiaxing Lu, Xiaohua actually saw Murong Zongyun, Gongshu Isan, and other aristocratic family disciples who were only at 5th grade essence force wanting to enter Star Moon Palace. These aristocratic family disciples were, after all, from first-class aristocratic families. Perhaps their potential was limitless and they were qualified to enter Star Moon Palace. However, the two Confucian cultivators that Xiaohua saw now had average strength and aptitude. Xiaohua really did not know what special opportunity they would have if they entered Star Moon Palace. However, when he saw the smug look on their faces, Xiaohua somewhat understood. At this point, the opportunity in Star Moon Palace was no longer important. What was important was whether or not they could obtain the qualification to enter Star Moon Palace. This was a kind of glory, a capital that could be flaunted. In the eyes of Fairy Xingyu and Su Ji, Star Moon Palace is a matter of life and death. In the eyes of Gongshu Jingya and Murong Jiang, it is an opportunity for a breakthrough. However, in the eyes of many cultivators, it has become a kind of qualification. Xiaohua sighed. I have to say, in the eyes of different people, the same thing will have different effects. No matter how good the opportunity is, when it is fought over by everyone, it will also change its meaning. Seniors, there is no need to be anxious. Just as Xiaohua was about to leave, the Jiaxing Lu disciple in the auction hall said loudly, after a while, Jiaxing Lu will use the defensive array in the building to send all of you to the place where the former enmity will be buried. Really? The fat armament cultivator had just taken a dozen steps when he heard this and could not help but laugh. This Zhu's primordial stones are, at this point, the armament cultivator surnamed Zhu seemed to have spilled the beans and hurriedly shut his mouth. His two small eyes looked around and his face turned a shade of red. Brother Mu was also stunned, but he smiled slightly and said, "That's right, Jiaxing Lu's arrangement is excellent. When I met Brother Zhu in the hidden immortal continent, wasn't it also at Jiaxing Lu? I remember that day." Yes. Seeing that Brother Mu had changed the topic, the armament cultivator surnamed Zhu hurriedly interrupted. His pair of small eyes looked left and right. When he saw Xiaohua not far away with a faint smile, he fiercely glared at Xiaohua. Xiaohua innocently shrugged his shoulders. He also did not want to hear it, but this armament cultivator surnamed Zhu's voice was very loud. Not only Xiaohua, but many people nearby also heard it. A few of them could not help but laugh. Swoosh. In just a moment, a nebula began to appear all around the auction hall. This nebula surrounded the several thousand feet large auction hall. Moreover, as the nebula spread down the four walls, the entire auction hall began to become transparent. One by one, brilliant stars appeared in the nebula. When the nebula gradually disappeared, the brilliant stars revealed different human figures. At this time, the auction hall had already turned into a star shape. Chapter 4484. Boom. High up in the sky, there was a rumbling sound. Rings of light that were more dazzling than ordinary stars appeared. These rings of light were a few miles in size and rapidly expanded, enveloping an area of 100 miles. At this moment, streams of divine senses, elemental senses, and even more clear sight lights were scanning the entire starry sky. It seemed a little chaotic. Kacha. There was another rumble of thunder. The rings of light began to turn transparent and huge sub-bodies appeared from within. Although the rings of light were extremely tall, everyone could see everything within them clearly. Those sub-bodies were Murong Jiang, Gongshu Jingya, and the other martial grandmasters who were around the 7th grade of elemental power. These martial grandmasters released their vital energy and condensed it within the rings of light. Layers of confinement fell from the sky like city walls, enveloping the entire starry sky. The messy divine senses and clear sight lights from before were immediately swept away. No one dared to show any recklessness in front of the martial grandmasters. Xiaohua stood on a star that was slowly rising. He squinted his eyes and looked at the martial grandmasters within the rings of light. The rings of light were huge and there were many martial grandmasters. Xiaohua scanned with his eyes and knew that there were close to 200 martial grandmasters. This meant that there were close to 200 martial grandmasters who came to Zhai Xinglu to prepare to enter Xingyue Palace. Looking below the rings of light, other than the star that Xiaohua was sitting on, there were hundreds of other stars that were gradually rising. Every star was filled with flickering silhouettes. There seemed to be more than 10,000 people. When all the stars had fallen below the rings of light, boom! There was another rumbling sound. In the middle of the rings of light, a full moon appeared out of thin air. The moonlight was like water, and a woman with picturesque features and dressed in palace attire flew out like a fairy. This woman was not as beautiful as Princess Baihua, but under the moonlight and starry sky, she had a unique charm. Almost everyone's gaze landed on her face, and they remained silent for a long time. I am Nan Huayue. Greetings to all the seniors. The woman landed and bowed to the martial grandmasters within the rings of light. Under the orders of my palace lord, I am here to help all the martial grandmasters bury the hatchet. Very good. A proud voice sounded from within the halo. Xiaohua looked over and saw a man with a simple face and thick eyebrows. First, the various aristocratic families hosted the challenges. Although it was somewhat legal, I always felt that it was unfair. Ever since Zhai Xinglu hosted the challenges, the situation has improved a lot. Today, this old man is very satisfied with the Starry Sky Arena. Please thank the palace lord on behalf of the Duanmu aristocratic family. Nan Huayue replied respectfully, I understand. I will definitely convey seniors' gratitude. Alright, we don't need to say any more. The disciples of the aristocratic families all know the rules of the challenge to bury the hatchet. Before entering the Star Moon Palace, it's good to let these little kids stretch their muscles and bones. Gongshu Jingye opened his mouth, his voice like thunder. Yes, this old man hasn't seen so many aristocratic families' disciples gather together to exchange pointers for many years. I wonder how many outstanding disciples have emerged after so many years. Today, I really want to broaden my horizons. A young man in luxurious clothes said with a smile on his face. Duanmu Lianheng raised his head and looked at the man in luxurious clothes opposite him. He said disdainfully, Brother Meng Cheng, this is a challenge to bury the hatchet. It's not a ranking battle for your Meng clan. If you don't have any grudges, there's no need to step forward. Brother Meng's words will cause some unnecessary misunderstandings. If there are some disciples who are as competitive as Brother Meng and want to stand out in this challenge, it will affect our plans to enter the Star Moon Palace. Why? Brother Duanmu seems to want to settle the personal grudges between us here. The Meng clan's great-grandmaster Meng Qing did not show any weakness. He smiled and said, although this challenge to bury the hatchet has yet to have a great-grandmaster level battle, things in this world have always started from nothing. This Meng is willing to accompany Brother Duanmu to set this precedent. The words of an important figure had always been a necessity in some situations. None of the disciples present took the words of the Meng clan's great-grandmaster seriously. The aristocratic families had many complicated relationships, so it was normal for them to casually tease each other. Unfortunately, just as the few great-grandmasters from the aristocratic families were smiling, Duanmu Lianheng nodded and said, Good, then. A saber light that was like an exploding galaxy flew across the sky brilliantly and surged violently toward Meng Cheng, who was opposite the full moon. Although the entire starry sky was a part of the fragmentary star Cold Moon Great Array, for the sake of the Confucian cultivators of the aristocratic family's challenge, there was no restriction or noble spirit in the starry sky. As the saber light swept past, lines of space cracks were formed, and the endless noble spirit pillar condensed into a phosphorescence that landed on the saber light. The roar completely covered the starry sky, and even the full moon was blown away. Damn it. Meng Qing naturally did not expect Duanmu Lianheng to attack as he pleased. The saber light was already in front of him in the blink of an eye. The cold saber chi treated the halo as nothing and had already landed on Meng Cheng's sub-body when Meng Cheng was caught off guard. Tens of thousands of fine lines split open on the sub-body, and wisps of true chi flowed out from the fine lines. Meng Cheng did not doubt that if this saber hit him, his sub-body would definitely be torn into pieces. Meng Cheng cursed in his heart and roared again, "Break!" Following this roar, Meng Cheng's sub-body suddenly trembled, and a faint shadow flashed. The golden light turned into a fist that broke through the air and rushed toward the saber light that was like a river. The shadow had just appeared, but it was just a shadow. It only crossed a few dozen feet in the starry sky. The countless noble spirit pillar was even more vast than the saber light. The roar continuously crashed into the fist, and the armor inscriptions and tricolored clouds within the fist instantly condensed into a huge fist. The patterns on the fist were clear, and each pattern was a mountain. The tricolored clouds also covered the many mountains and rivers. At this time, the inscriptions on the armor also flowed on the surface of the fist, and a strand of human chi was produced like silk. The entire fist was filled with the unique noble spirit of the Meng family. It was like a mountain that blocked the murderous river of stars. Boom! The mountain-like fist collided with the water-like saber light. The water wrapped around the mountainside, and the mountain broke the water flow. In the space not far below Nanhuayue, the attacks of the two grandmasters finally collided. A huge roar sounded, and wisps of lightning actually flashed out. The noble spirit pillar turned into countless tiny vortexes and crazily surged into the starry sky in all directions. Within the lightning, the entire starry sky was shaking. Thousands of explosions were produced everywhere, and the space was torn apart, forming a storm that rushed toward the full moon. Nanhuayue's expression changed greatly. Starlight flashed around her body, and she wanted to escape toward the full moon. However, the noble spirit pillar imprisoned her for dozens of miles around her. Nanhuayue's figure moved a few times, but she couldn't fly out. The wave-like force had already rushed below her. Not only was her palace dress disheveled, even the true energy protecting her body was scattered. At this critical moment, whoosh! The full moon not far from Nanhuayue suddenly bloomed with milky white moonlight. The moonlight was like milk spilling out. Wherever it flowed, all the forces were calmed. Not only did the danger around Nanhuayue disappear instantly, even the space that was torn apart by Duanmu Lianheng and Meng Cheng's attacks disappeared without a trace. When the moonlight filled the entire place, a tranquil and holy aura was slowly born in the nearby starry sky. The entire place was quiet, and there wasn't a trace of the mortal world. Everyone seemed to be intoxicated in the moonlight paradise. Senior Duanmu, Senior Meng. Nanhuayue suppressed her panic and said with a smile, "If the two of you want to participate in the challenge to bury the hatchet, it's naturally possible. However, you still need to report to me. Otherwise, wouldn't it be improper? We're all boorish people. We've truly disturbed the fairy." Meng Cheng was the first to speak, and he said with a smile, "This old man apologizes to the fairy in person." Hearing Meng Cheng's gentle and refined voice and his lukewarm tone, how could the boorish person he spoke of be himself? He was clearly mocking Duanmu Lianheng. However, Duanmu Lianheng also snorted coldly and didn't reply. Gongshu Jingyi smiled and said, "This old man heard that the Duanmu family was going to put on a good show today, but I didn't expect that the main character wouldn't appear, and Brother Duanmu would actually be a walk-on. This old man really doesn't understand. Are they trying to put on a show of strength? Or does Brother Duanmu really want to spar with Brother Meng Cheng?" Another voice sounded from afar, and he said with a smile, "That's right. If Brother Meng Cheng and Brother Duanmu fight, I'm afraid we'll have 2 fewer opponents entering the Star Moon Palace. Why wouldn't we be happy? Hurry up. Seniors. Nan Huayue pursed her lips and said with a smile, Duanmu and the two seniors from the Meng family are just joking with me. You don't have to take it seriously. Seniors, if it's possible, can we bury the hatchet and start the challenge now? Yes, let's start. Duanmu Lianheng's voice sounded slightly cold. Meng Qing also smiled and said, Fairy Nan, please start. We'll listen to Zhai Xing Lu's arrangements from now on. We don't dare, we don't dare. Nan Huayue said respectfully, this junior is only cooperating with the seniors. The real decision is in the hands of the seniors. After she finished speaking, Nan Huayue raised her hand and took out a round purple square cauldron from her palace dress. She said, Seniors, please put the names of the fellow immortals who are participating in this challenge into this general dispatch cauldron. This junior will invite these fellow immortals out one by one according to the rules of the challenge. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. As Nan Huayue sent the general dispatch cauldron into the starry sky, the jade eyes in the hands of the various great grandmasters turned into shooting stars and fell into the cauldron. Every time a jade eye fell, the sound of a drum would be heard from the cauldron. After the jade eyes disappeared, the sonorous and powerful battle drum formation music also left a lingering sound in the starry sky. Fight, fight, fight. The battle drums had just stopped, but the sound of thousands of horses neighing could be heard again. All the disciples from the various great grandmasters felt their blood boil, and they couldn't help but roar with the battle drum music. Chapter 4485. Thump, thump, thump. Another slow and heavy beat of the drum resounded. Nan Huayue's voice was filled with gentleness and desolation as he said, according to the rules of the challenge to bury the hatchet, the aristocratic family's ranking will be the first to step out. As he spoke, a thunderous drumming sound rang out. Two extraordinarily handsome Pegasus phantoms flew out of the cauldron. Each of the Pegasus was carrying a square token. The flying horses landed in front of Nan Huayue. They snorted and flapped their wings. They looked exactly like divine steeds. Nan Huayue raised her hand and took the two tokens from the horse's back. The flying horses neighed and disappeared into the starry sky. Nan Huayue raised her left hand. Her eyes flashed and she smiled. The first round is Duanmu Qing from the Duanmu family. As she spoke, she glanced at the other token and read, Mo Jianli. Mo Jianli? Who is Mo Jianli? The moment Nan Huayue spoke, all the aristocratic family disciples were stunned. The few Confucian cultivators around Xiaohua began to discuss. How come I didn't know there was a Mo family? Could it be that I am ignorant? It's not that you are ignorant. This Mo Jianli is probably not an aristocratic family disciple. That's why we didn't know. Furthermore, according to what I know, the aristocratic family with a higher level will go first. If their opponent is not from the aristocratic family, they will go first. After all, this is a challenge between aristocratic families. If they don't show off their aura, how can they succeed? This Mo Jianli is unlucky. Another person said in a low voice. It would be good if someone else was the leader of the Duanmu family. This senior's temper is not good. This Mo Jianli actually offended a Duanmu family disciple. I'm afraid he won't be able to leave alive, that's right. His anger was blocked by Great Grandmaster Meng just now. He has nowhere to vent it. If he has nowhere to vent it, he can't do it himself. This Duanmu Qing is only at the 4th level of essence energy. How powerful can his enemy, Mo Jianli, be? If he were to make a move, wouldn't he lose face first? As everyone was discussing, 2 faint beams of light flew out from the full moon and landed on 2 stars. Duanmu Qing, who looked like an elegant young master, flew into the starry sky along with the moonlight. She held a folding fan in her hand and looked very elegant. Under the other light beam, Mo Jianli flew out, looking slightly sloppy. Mo Jianli looked old. In the past 200 years, he had experienced all the sufferings of the world. He had seen all the vicissitudes of the world. He did not care about clothes anymore. Looking at Mo Jianli, one could see the maturity of the vicissitudes of life. Now, compared to Duan Muqing, he was an uncle. Boom. Before Mo Jianli could land in front of Duan Muqing, the entire place was filled with laughter. That Meng Qing even shouted, "The disciples of the Duanmu family are really not making any progress. A Zhongshe disciple actually can't get along with a literary master. If this was my Meng family, I would have killed him with a single slap." Ha! Amidst the roaring laughter, there was another wave of laughter. The Meng family's disciples all echoed. Inside the halo, Duanmu Lianheng's face was ashen. His two eyes stared at Duanmu Qing's back and anger rose in his heart. Duanmu Qing was from a side branch of the Duanmu family. Duanmu Lianheng originally did not care about it. However, Duanmu Qing mentioned that Xiao Hua was a Dao cultivator that the Duanmu family wanted to kill. Furthermore, Duanmu Qing was also a disciple of the Duanmu family. Duanmu Lianheng casually allowed her to participate in the challenge to bury the hatchet. However, Duanmu Lianheng did not expect that he would draw Duanmu Qing in the first round. Furthermore, the opponent that Duanmu Qing made the vow to was not Xiao Hua, but a literary master. Although he knew that there was something fishy going on, this joke was obviously over. Mo Jianli was originally a little terrified. However, when he heard the roaring laughter of the crowd, the unyielding spirit in his heart rose again. He swept his gaze across the crowd. Although he could not see many faces clearly, he was sure that the reason why he was displaced was definitely due to the pressure exerted by some of these disciples. The destruction of the Chongyun sect was also the result of these disciples' inaction. What did he have to fear when facing them? Only he had the advantage of suppressing them. Thinking of this, Mo Jianli straightened his back slightly. This straightening was like a sharp sword, like a beautiful jade horsetail whisk. The accumulation of over 200 years exploded at this moment. A glowing jade-like divine light shone from Mo Jianli's body. Seeing this, how could Xiao Hua not know what was going on? He stopped moving and looked at Mo Jianli with interest. If the previous Mo Jianli was Wen Chu's disciple, he would naturally not be qualified. However, the current Mo Jianli was probably barely qualified. Mo Jianli. Duanmu Qing saw Mo Jianli fly out and kept the folding fan in her hand. She smiled and said, "You really came out? Where's Xiao Hua? Did he stand you up? Since I made the vow with you, then I naturally came out. If you want to fight with Senior Xiao, then you can stand here and not leave." Mo Jianli did not have the previous uneasiness and said to Duanmu Qing, who was at the 4th grade of elemental energy. Duanmu Qing's face was filled with awkwardness. She did not dare to reply casually. She looked around and did not see Xiao Hua's shadow. She said, "If Xiao Hua does not dare to come out, you are also not my opponent. How about this, you apologize to me on behalf of Xiao Hua and this challenge will end here." "No way." Mo Jianli shook his head and said, "What Senior Xiao did was not wrong. Why should he apologize to you? If we talk about the matter itself, you should be the one apologizing. Of course, since it is a challenge to let bygones be bygones, there is no point in saying all this. I accept the challenge from the aristocratic families." Mo Jianli finished his sentence in one breath. Duanmu Qing was so angry that she almost fainted. Because at this moment, he had no way of explaining anything. He had already become a profligate son who used his power to bully others. "All right." Duanmu Qing nodded and said, "Since that is the case, I will fulfill your wish. If Xiao Hua does not come, I will fight with you." "What if Senior Xiao comes?" Mo Jianli said sarcastically, "Are you going to be a coward?" Mo Jianli. Duanmu Qing was completely enraged. She roared angrily, "This is a challenge to let bygones be bygones. Don't show off your filthy words. Are you going to fight, or not?" "I don't care." Mo Jianli was not angry at all. He only shrugged and said, the key is to see if Duanmu eldest young master, are you going to fight or not? I. Duanmu Qing gritted her teeth. In the end, she still shouted, if it is you, I will, fight. Without waiting for Duanmu Qing to finish speaking, a thunderous sound came from afar. Duanmu Lianheng was already impatient and ordered. Duanmu Qing's body shook. She could only nod and said, that's right, fight. When the word fight came out, Duanmu Qing suddenly felt a chill down her spine. She realized that she had been tricked. Needless to say, this must be Xiao Hua's plan. Under the eyes of thousands of people, he forced her to fight. Duanmu Qing did not know how strong Xiao Hua was. Just based on Xiao Hua's cultivation, Duanmu Qing was not afraid. However, the problem was that even Gongshu Exian had to call Xiao Hua senior. How would he dare to fight Xiao Hua? Sure enough, just as Duanmu Qing's voice landed, a figure appeared indifferently. Under his feet was a cloud and he flew out from one of the stars. Seeing Xiao Hua's thin and tall figure, Duanmu Qing immediately looked like she had lost her father. Her face was pale and her eyes were spitting fire as she stared at Xiao Hua. If looks could kill, Xiao Hua would have died 100 times. Senior Xiao. Nan Huayue opened her mouth in surprise. Previously, when she heard Duanmu Qing mention Xiao Hua's name, she had some doubts. However, she did not expect that a mere scholar realm cultivator would dare to offend a human Mahayana realm cultivator. However, Nan Huayue only opened her mouth and did not say anything else. She was afraid that she would disrupt Xiao Hua's plan. Of course, she also did not think that Xiao Hua would really attack Duanmu Qing. Sure enough, Xiao Hua flew to Mo Jianli's side and said with a smile, this Xiao is here. You should obediently be a coward. Ha ha ha. Another wave of laughter rang out. Duanmu Qing's face was incomparably ashen. However, after the laughter, there was also a lot of discussion. Good heavens, who is this cultivator? How can he be so arrogant? It's actually a Taoist cultivator? It looks like, he's just a Yuanying realm cultivator of the 4th grade? Nonsense, if he's a Yuanying realm cultivator of the 5th grade, would you still be able to see him here? No, a Yuanying realm cultivator is on par with Duanmu Qing. How can he force Duanmu Qing into such a sorry state? Fight! If Duanmu Qing cowered now, then he would really become a coward. He would never be able to see Gongshu Yiming's face again. Therefore, Duanmu Qing's eyes were also red as she shouted, Xiao Hua, this one has already accumulated hatred with you for more than 200 years. Today, we can finally bury the hatchet. This one has been looking forward to this battle for a long time. Ha! Xiao Hua laughed and pointed at Duanmu Qing. If you wanted to fight, you could have fought back then. At that time, you could have fought with this Xiao. Perhaps in the future, there wouldn't be the Duanmu clan's kill order. However, at this time, you are no longer worthy to fight with this Xiao. Kill order? What is going on? Another person asked loudly. Xiao Hua did not need to turn his head to know that this was a disciple of the Meng clan. Naturally, there's no need to talk about such filthy things under the moonlight. Xiao Hua said with a smile, besides, this Xiao is a person of noble character. I have long forgotten about such things. Good Taoist Xiao. Hearing Xiao Hua slander the Duanmu clan, the Meng clan disciple immediately gave Xiao Hua a tall hat. Taoist Xiao. Suddenly, a few martial grandmasters sitting in the halo trembled as if they had realized something. They blurted out, Xiao, is it Xiao country Xiao? Meng Xing of the Meng clan was the first to realize. He shouted, Xiao Hua, don't be afraid. My Meng clan will stand up for you in this battle. What kill order, to actually issue a kill order to Taoist Xiao, whose name shook the entire hidden immortal continent. You don't even have the most basic conscience. What qualifications do you have to sit here and call yourself a Confucian clan? Chapter 4486. Damn it, damn it. Duanmu Lianheng cursed a few times. He really did not think so much. Moreover, the kill order was something that happened before the God-fiend blood pool. It had nothing to do with the Shao Empire later. Hee, thank you for your high opinion of me. Shao Hua smiled and raised his hand to signal to the surroundings. I don't need your help to deal with the Duanmu family. If I need your help in the future, I will definitely ask. Hee. Duanmu Lianheng could no longer endure and laughed coldly. I want to see how a Daoist cultivator will deal with my Duanmu family. Duanmu Qing, fight. Yes, the boy knows. Duanmu Qing was forced to do something beyond her ability. She clenched her teeth and said, would rather die than live in dishonor. You think too highly of yourself. You are just a pile of rubble. Shao Hua said indifferently. You are not worthy enough to fight with me. As he spoke, Shao Hua said to Mo Jinli, come back. Yes, senior. Seeing Shao Hua standing there, looking down on the disciples of the aristocratic families as if they were nothing, Mo Jinli was convinced and flew back to Shao Hua's side. Humph. Duanmu Qing snorted coldly. If I don't try, who knows if you are talking nonsense. As she spoke, the tricolored qi around Duanmu Qing's body surged. Streams of awe-inspiring qi flew out from the void and collided with his body. A kind of desolation that felt like the wind was blowing and the water was freezing was slowly born. Shao Hua smiled faintly. With a wave of his left hand, the Kunlun mirror appeared. One of the light pillars shot out and Yuanya flew out from the light pillar with his bare hands. He stood in the starry sky in a daze and looked around at the Confucian cultivators in the halo. See. Every Confucian cultivator who was glanced at by Yuanya felt a chill down their spine and sucked in a breath of cold air. Seventh grade elemental energy. Yuanya's gaze only glanced at the halo and immediately saw Shao Hua behind him. In an instant, Yuanya had already treated all the heroes as nothing. He bowed and said, Master, why did you call me out? Master? Duanmu Qing was stunned. A 7th grade elemental energy Confucian cultivator actually called Shao Hua Master? How is this possible? His name is Duanmu Qing, I presume you know him as well. Shao Hua pointed at Duanmu Qing and said, he wants to challenge me, do as you see fit. Oh. When Yuanya heard this, he turned to look at Duanmu Qing. After sizing her up, he grinned and said, yes, master. I know this brat. You. Seeing Yuanya's appearance, Duanmu Qing suddenly had a slight impression of him. Back then, in front of the star-plucking tower in the Bronze Pillar Nation, Yuanya, Shao Jian and Lu Yi were also by his side. However, Yuanya was too lowly at that time. How could Duanmu Qing remember him? If Shao Hua hadn't mentioned it, he definitely wouldn't have remembered it. That's right, that's me. Clouds appeared under Yuanya's feet as he flew towards Duanmu Qing to take a look. He continued to say, so it is the awe-inspiring young Master Duanmu from that night. It has been many years since we last met. As he spoke, Yuanya shouted in a deep voice, back then, you were so arrogant and domineering. You sat on the dragon horse flying chariot and were so arrogant. Today, take a punch from me. As Yuanya's voice fell, a boom sound broke through the air. Yuanya raised his arms slightly and punched out with his right fist. Yuanya's punch was completely different from Meng Cheng's. The size of his fist didn't change, but when it landed in the starry sky, it was like a stone falling into water. Not only did it cause ripples, it also brought about waves. The space around Duanmu Qing was shattered layer by layer like snowflakes. Duanmu Qing was originally afraid of Yuanya, who was at the 7th grade of essence power. When she saw Yuanya's merciless attack, not only was she terrified, but she saw that the fist had just appeared and the fist technique was already in front of her. The fist force was like a tidal wave as it roared and destroyed Duanmu Qing's mouth and nose. Furthermore, a ferocious flame that covered the sky and covered the earth firmly imprisoned Duanmu Qing like a hungry wolf hunting for its prey. Everyone was shocked. The close to 200 Confucian martial grandmasters were also dumbfounded. This was because they had just seen Yuanya's fist dance and his fist had just left a mark in the starry sky. Yuanya's fist had already landed on Duanmu Qing's body without any exaggeration. Pooh! It was a very ordinary sound, not much louder than the sound of a flower bud blooming. Yuanya's fist made contact with Duanmu Qing's chest. Kacha! Within Duanmu Qing's Confucian robe, there was a cracking sound. Several rays of light flashed and the Confucian robe turned into butterflies and scattered. At the same time, the treasured armor within the Confucian robe was also shattered into pieces. Not only that, under the treasured armor, pu-pu-pu. The sound of flesh and blood bursting could be heard. Countless amounts of true energy surged out from Duanmu Qing's body. Pooh! There was another muffled sound. Duanmu Qing raised her head and spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood was mixed with a rich three-colored true energy. This true energy and blood actually transformed into a dim jade lotus in midair. However, this jade lotus disappeared in a flash. Duanmu Qing's body was like duckweed as she slowly descended from the starry sky. Damn it! Duanmu Lianheng raised his hand and waved. Just as a ray of cloud was about to fly out, Nanhuayue raised his hand and pointed. A ray of moonlight covered the unconscious Duanmu Qing. When Duanmu Lianheng saw that Duanmu Qing was saved by Nanhuayue, he could no longer hold himself back. He urged his sub-body to fly out from the halo and said angrily, "You are a senior with the 7th grade of essence energy. How can you deal with a junior with the 4th grade of essence energy? You have shattered his middle dantian. How can he cultivate in the future? Aren't you bullying the weak?" Yuanya coldly glanced at him. That gaze carried a kind of vigilance. Seeing that Duanmu Lianheng was standing there and didn't directly attack, Yuanya said, "Back then, my master was only at the 3rd grade of essence energy. This Duanmu Qing commanded Duanmu Qiu to surround and attack him. Furthermore, my master was all alone in the world and your Duanmu clan issued a kill order. Who are you calling shameless? I heard from my master that the Duanmu clan actually sent a martial grandmaster with the 5th grade of essence energy to kill him. Who are you calling bullying the weak? I only crippled his cultivation because he was too weak. If he was a little stronger, I would have directly killed him." You. How arrogant was Duanmu Lianheng? He was a Confucian cultivator who could take down the golden body of Nanwu Guanyin Bodhisattva with a single blade. However, facing Yuanya's rebuttal, he actually didn't know how to reply. Following that, Yuanya glanced at Duanmu Lianheng and said, "I am Fortune Gate's Yuanya." "Who are you? Do you want to fight? If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't want to fight, then scram." Woo! When had Duanmu Lianheng ever encountered such humiliation in his life? He didn't say anything else. He waved his right hand and that blade light flew out again. It was like a thunderbolt falling towards Yuanya. The space above Yuanya's head collapsed bit by bit. "Damned old man, sneak attack again." Meng Qing shouted, "What else can your Duanmu clan do besides sneak attacks?" Who? Seeing that the blade light was about to reach his body, Yuanya didn't care at all. He used the ethereal steps and his right hand moved. The Big Dipper divine fist was swung out again. Where the fist landed, the space was also shattered. Spiderweb-like spatial cracks surged out. Ka! In a flash, the fist landed on the blade light. Amidst the sound of metal and stone, the blade light was smashed into pieces by the stone-like fist. A bloodthirsty fist wind passed through the blade intent and directly rushed into Duanmu Lianheng's body. Ah! This Tao Gates cultivator is so powerful. The group of Confucian disciples were shocked, and they all exclaimed in unison, "This so-called Fortune Gate disciple, Yuanya, is able to fight to a draw with Duanmu Lianheng of the Duanmu family." Then, then what about the master he mentioned? Wouldn't he be able to easily take Duanmu Lianheng's life? Hiss. Not only were the Confucian disciples shocked, even Duanmu Lianheng was shocked once again. This fist wind was filled with blood. If a cultivator hadn't heard of the blood massacre, they definitely wouldn't have such a fist wind. Although Duanmu Lianheng's cultivation seemed to be slightly stronger than Yuan Ye's, his morale definitely couldn't compare to Yuan Ye's, who had fought to the death with the Devil Clan. Puff, puff, puff. Like an explosion, the protective layer around Duanmu Lianheng's body rushed into his body through his hand. Not only did the explosion cause cracks to appear on Duanmu Lianheng's Confucian cultivation, it even created ripples in the nearby starry sky. Senior Duanmu. Before Duanmu Lianheng could circulate his true qi to resist this fist wind, Nan Huayue anxiously said, "You're not in the general dispatching cauldron, so you can't do anything." Duanmu Lianheng hurriedly retreated and took a deep breath. The clouds around his body surged once again, and he barely managed to disperse Yuanya's fist wind. Then, he pretended to be innocent and pointed at Yuanya, saying, This senior Yuanya is the disciple designated by Senior Shao, so he's in line with the rules of the challenge to bury the hatchet." Nan Huayue said, "You didn't receive Duanmu Qing's order, so if you want to do anything, you can put in the command talisman again." All right. How could Duanmu Lianheng show weakness? He narrowed his eyes and said, "I'll challenge this Daoist Shao." Just as Duanmu Lianheng finished speaking, Nan Huayue, Duanmu Lianheng, and many other Confucian martial grandmasters shone with a radiance. Nan Huayue was startled. She raised her hand and picked up a jade pendant. Her clear gaze fell upon it, and a surprised expression appeared on her face. After a moment, she said, "Seniors, the Tower Lord has sent a message that the Xianhuang command talisman is going to update the Xianhuang proclamation. Junior remembers that all the seniors have bid for the Xianhuang proclamation from my Zhai Xing Lu. Presumably, it was the Tower Lord who sent the message to all of you. If it's possible, Junior will announce the Xianhuang proclamation here." "All right." Meng Qing clapped his hands and smiled. After reading the Xianhuang proclamation, we'll see how Duanmu Lianheng sneak attacks Daoist Shao. "Shut up." Duanmu Lianheng roared, "Meng Qing, if you're not convinced, you can come down and fight." "Can you wait until this old man comes down?" Meng Qing smiled and said, "You'd better think about how to deal with this Fortune Gates disciple after the Xianhuang proclamation is updated. If there are no objections, Junior will announce the new Xianhuang proclamation on behalf of my Zhai Xing Lu." Nan Huayue looked at everyone and asked. Chapter 4487. Quick, quick, quick. Gongshu Jingyi said with a smile, "I want to see who will become an influential figure in the Daoist sect in a few years." Hearing that the Xianhuang token had updated the Xianhuang proclamation, all the Confucian cultivators were in high spirits. They all looked at Nan Huayue with wide eyes. After all, the Xianhuang proclamation was not only a hunting list, but also a huge gamble with the 3 continents as a plate. All the Confucian cultivators wanted to get some excitement from the Xianhuang proclamation. However, when everyone's gaze fell on Nan Huayue, his face turned red again. He seemed to be embarrassed as he said, "Seniors, I have a small condition, speak quickly." Duanmu Lianheng scolded impatiently. Meng Qing said coldly, "Brother Duanmu, why are you so rude? As the representative of the Duanmu family, even if you can't have tender feelings for the fairer sex, I'm afraid you can't scold a young girl, right? Can't you see that she's embarrassed before she even speaks? Damn it." Duanmu Lianheng's eyes overflowed with brilliance as he looked at Meng Qing. His tone was filled with anger. However, he only cursed inwardly. He glanced at Yuanya from the corner of his eyes and suppressed his anger. "I know that seniors have already bid for the Xianhuang proclamation." Nan Huayue smiled apologetically. "However, the Xianhuang proclamation will be transmitted to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm after it's published on the hidden immortal continent. Just now, the Tower Master sent a message saying that if we want to publish it together with the hidden immortal continent, it will cost a lot of origin stones. If seniors want to see it now, please, take out 50% of the origin stones. I'm sorry, seniors. Damn it, isn't this raising the price? Murong Jiang cursed in a low voice. Gongshu Jingyi pondered for a moment and said, Miss Nan, your Tower Master is right. If we use ordinary methods to obtain the Xianhuang proclamation, it won't cost too much even in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. However, there will be a long delay. Now that we want to obtain the Xianhuang proclamation in both the Thousand Demons' sacred realm and the hidden immortal continent, I'm afraid we'll have to use some secret formations of the star-picking tower. Even my Gongshu family doesn't have such a secret formation in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Of course, my Gongshu family also knows how difficult it is to construct the Xianhuang proclamation. It's worth it to spend some origin stones. Fine, my Gongshu family is willing to take out these primordial stones. As he spoke, Gongshu Jingyi sent a voice transmission to a star in the distance. A disciple of the Gongshu family flew over with the yin-yang bracelet and handed it to Nan Huayue. Nan Huayue released his divine perception to take a look before carefully withdrawing it. He bowed and said, Many thanks to Senior Gongshu. You are the one who empathizes with Zhai Xinglu's hard work. Since the Gongshu aristocratic family had taken the lead, the other aristocratic families didn't have much to say. In just a moment, the aristocratic families also replenished their primeval stones. After Nan Huayue sent all of the origin stones into the full moon above his head, he heard a series of rumbling sounds from the starry sky. A fist-sized vortex appeared amidst the rumbling sounds. Several dark green threads of lightning flickered within the vortex, and a kind of powerful void energy surged out from the vortex and instantly covered the entire space. Teleportation channel? Xiaohua glanced over and couldn't help but frown. This was because the dark green threads of lightning were very similar to the three corpses in lightning. The void energy within the vortex even revealed the aura of a teleportation channel. Boom. 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 After the whirlpool was formed, the sound of thunder slowed down. However, with every rumble, the whirlpool would increase in size. In less than half a cup of tea's time, the space above the full moon was enveloped by the whirlpool. At this time, the vortexes overlapped and became heavier, like rotating stars. An incomparably vast aura came from the vortexes, and between the vortexes, the strands of lightning that were like hair before were now like horned dragons. These lightning bolts were connected to different vortexes, and as they flickered, they seemed to have the power to destroy the world. Other great masters might not have felt anything, but Gongshu Jingye's eyes flashed with silver moon pupils, and his face showed astonishment. The Gongshu family had always been famous for their arrays, and Gongshu Jingyi was also an array master. However, he had never seen the Gongshu family build such a huge defensive array. Moreover, in his silver moon pupils, he didn't see any trace of a defensive array at all. He didn't even see the Dharma power of an ordinary Taoist array. No wonder Zhai Xinglu is so powerful. Gongshu Jingyi thought to himself in surprise. Just from this inexplicable array, I can see how extraordinary Zhai Xinglu is from one side. Not to mention my Gongshu family, even the four great families might not be able to build such an array in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm to directly receive the news of the Xianhuang token updating the Xianhuang list, right? Gongshu Jingyi was surprised, and so were the other great masters of Confucian cultivation. The disciples of Confucian cultivation who were on many stars were already drunk. Previously, everyone thought Zhai Xinglu was taking advantage of the situation and wanted to collect more vitality stones. However, when they saw such a huge array for the purpose of sending messages, none of them felt that the vitality stones they had spent before were in vain. Boom, boom, boom. Just as everyone was waiting, the vortexes of different sizes roared again. Bolts of 5 chi righteous thunder and lightning bolts of 5 chi righteous thunder and lightning bolts fell. Inscription chains scattered after the lightning bolts, striking the starry sky like a heavenly punishment. Under the lightning bolts and inscription chains, thousands of immortal palace wills rushed over like thousands of galloping horses. The space under the vortexes was swept clean, leaving only the awe-inspiring chi. Then, waves of green water rushed in. The green water carried the immortal palace's string music. Under the cover of the water, immortal beasts and birds, as well as immortal palace pavilions and beautiful immortal palace buildings, appeared. Many disciples of Confucian cultivation families were mesmerized. Roar. Just as everyone was mesmerized, a dragon's roar sounded. The tens of thousands of palaces shattered, and thousands of hectares of greenery collapsed. A huge black dragon flew out of the debris. When the black dragon rushed high into the sky, roar. Another tiger's roar sounded, and an earthy yellow tiger roared out. The dragon soared and the tiger leaped. Kacha. The 5 chi righteous thunder struck out of nowhere, and the black dragon turned into a black list. The list was faintly surrounded by dragon shapes. The yellow tiger naturally turned into a yellow list, and there was a tiger shape at the bottom of the list. Great! Dozens of disciples of Confucian cultivation families on the stars couldn't help but cheer. This awe-inspiring chi was the immortal palace's chi righteous chi. Boom, boom, before the disciples could cheer, 2 more thunderbolts struck the top of the 2 lists. Under the thunderbolts, not only did the 4 ancient inscriptions of Profound List and Yellow List appear on the 2 lists, but a solemn, dignified, and mighty aura gushed out from the 4 characters and filled the entire space. Humph. Xiaohua looked at the appearance of the Profound Yellow List and couldn't help but snort coldly. He inwardly criticized, although this chi righteous chi looks grand, it's actually strong on the outside but weak on the inside. It's just a list. It's just borrowing the name of the immortal palace to increase its own prestige. Swoosh. The Profound Yellow List was revealed, and thousands of clouds gushed out from the void. Those clouds floated over the Profound Yellow List, and like dots of ink falling down, blood-colored names appeared on the Profound Yellow List one by one. The first name on the Profound List was Grand Mist Ancestor of the Great Desolate Mountain, the second was Lianghui Mountain Taoist Master, and the third was Dark Knight of the Burning Glass Pool. These 3 Taoist cultivators' names were huge, but the names behind them were much smaller. Among them, Zhai Xingzi, Zhang Daoran, and Sun Kong Shangren, who Xiaohua was familiar with, were also ranked 71st, 79th, and 82nd respectively. Overturning Heaven Shangren was ranked 53rd. Ao Zhantian and Shui Mingzi were not on this profound list. Sigh. Xiaohua's gaze fell, and he couldn't help but frown. The Taoist cultivators above the 4th level of origin power are listed on the profound list. There are a total of 108 of them. So many cultivators above the spirit severing stage, how come I don't know so many of them? It seems like the hidden immortal continent is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Xiaohua deliberately looked at the last few names on the profound list, because in his impression, he should be ranked first on the yellow list before he entered the Dragon Island. And he killed the assassin of the mysterious Yellow Order, so he should be ranked on the profound list. Sure enough, 200 years was enough to erase a lot of memories. His name didn't appear on the profound list, so no one knew that Xiaohua was once ranked on the profound list. After looking at the profound list, the yellow list also appeared in the multicolored light. 360 bloody names appeared in front of everyone. The first one was Taoist Master Qing Su of the Great Sung Mountain Range. Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Xiong Yi, Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Li Xiang, and His Highness Lan of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range were ranked 67th, 81st, and 107th respectively. As for Chang Yu of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, he was ranked 304th because he was only at the early nascent soul stage. Xian Ping, Su Tingzi, and the others were not on the profound list. Xiaohua had seen the other Taoist cultivators on the Yaotai Mountain before, but Xiaohua didn't know most of them. After the multicolored light faded, the profound list and the yellow list gradually returned to normal. Those bloody names seemed like a mocking smile, and even more so, it seemed like they were looking at the numerous Confucian cultivators with desolate eyes. Oh. Murong Jiang, who was in the distant halo, asked in a low voice. This old man remembers that Xiao Hua was ranked last on the previous profound list. Why is there no trace of him here? I'll let Senior Murong know. Nan Huayue said in a low voice. Junior checked the profound list before. Senior Xiao was once on the yellow list, and later on, he was ranked on the profound list. Then, for some unknown reason, he disappeared again. Xiao Hua. I remember now, isn't he that Taoist cultivator who was suppressed in Baiqinyu some time ago? Another great grandmaster from a Confucian family asked curiously. Since he has been suppressed, he will naturally disappear from the profound board. That Confucian martial grandmaster naturally said what the majority of the Confucian cultivators were thinking. The entire halo once again returned to normal. Everyone seemed to be pondering why Xiao Hua suddenly left Baiqinyu, and also seemed to be waiting for the profound list to be updated. Chapter 4488. Rumble. Thunderous sounds were heard again from the huge whirlpool that enveloped the space. Then, the chains of Ming Lu swayed wantonly in the whirlpool like a horned dragon. A feeling that Ming Lu couldn't escape arose from the bottom of everyone's heart. Woo! Amidst the rumbling, the 9-colored clouds surged out. Suddenly, a strange whistling sound came from the clouds. The clouds shrunk rapidly, and a bloody light appeared in the vortex. A meteor that was several feet long flew out from the vortex. This meteor had a bloody tail and crashed into the yellow board at lightning speed. Kacha! A crisp sound was heard. The name of the last name on the yellow board was smashed into pieces. A red light flashed, and a large word that looked like it was written with a bloody brush appeared. Fortune Gates Lu Peng. Fortune Gate? A Confucian cultivator said strangely. Since when did the mysterious yellow board put a bounty on the disciples of our Confucian sects? Isn't this nonsense? Not necessarily. Another Confucian cultivator frowned and said, maybe it's a Taoist sect? Brother Situ, are you confused? Since when did our hidden immortal continent have a Taoist sect? Of course there isn't one on the hidden immortal continent, but it doesn't mean there isn't one in the Pure Land, right? Those bald donkeys have always indulged Taoist cultivators. Previously, many of the people on the mysterious yellow board were Taoist cultivators living in seclusion in the Pure Land. Humph, Brother Sima. Meng Cheng's face had a trace of excitement. He snorted and said, have you two brothers forgotten? Wasn't the one who blocked Duanmu Yanheng's sneak attack in the challenge just now Yuanya of the Fortune Gate? Io, that's right, that's right. The two Confucian cultivators suddenly came to their senses. After all, the saber and fist earlier were too fast, and Yuanya's self-introduction did not attract too much attention. If Meng Cheng had not mocked Duanmu Yanheng for being a Fortune Gate disciple, he probably would not have remembered. Fortune Gate? With Meng Cheng's reminder, in the entire space, more than 10,000 Confucian disciples and hundreds of Confucian cultivator families all looked at Xiao Hua and Yuanya. The Fortune Gate's reputation was like the rising sun, revealing a ray of dawn in the 3 continents. Fortune Gate's Lu Peng? Xiao Hua was a little confused. He had not expected that the first person to reveal himself would be one of his Fortune Gate's disciples. However, he had no recollection of Lu Peng's name. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua glanced at Yuanya. Unfortunately, Yuanya was as silent as always. He only glanced at the yellow board before focusing his attention on Duanmu Yanheng. Congratulations, Senior Xiao. Nan Huayue said respectfully. Fortune Gate's disciple on the ranking list. Xiao Hua smiled. He looked at the profound yellow bulletin and the surrounding scholarly cultivator clans and said, this is the hunting bulletin. What's there to be happy about? Xiao Hua's voice had yet to land, and Nan Huayue had yet to open his mouth. Woo! There was another strange whistling sound, and another blood-red meteor flew out from the vortex. It smashed through the rosy clouds, dodged the Ming-Lu chains, and crashed into the yellow board. Precisely, the second name that was written upside down shattered, and the name that was revealed was Fortune Gates You Booping. Motherfucker, I understand now. Xiao Hua suddenly thought of something, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. These two Yu Booping and Lu Peng, aren't they Yu Zhongquan's Yu clan and Lu Yi's Lu clan's disciples? I'm afraid they have already arrived at the soaring Dragon Mountain range, and even attracted the attention of the Immortal Palace. That's why the profound yellow bulletin changed. Seeing this, Meng Cheng asked curiously, what's going on? Why are there two Fortune Gates disciples in succession? This profound yellow bulletin, is there something wrong with it? Then, he turned to Nan Huayue and asked, Miss Nan, your star-picking tower's defensive formation is fine, right? Nan Huayue said proudly, Senior Meng, please rest assured. Even if there is something wrong with the profound yellow bulletin, my star-picking tower's defensive formation is absolutely fine, woo woo woo. Before Nan Huayue's voice fell, another violent gust of wind came from the whirlpool. This gust of wind was so sharp that not only did it suppress Nan Huayue's voice, but it also filled the entire space. Then, dozens of blood-red meteors flew out one after another, crazily slamming into the profound yellow bulletin. The entire profound yellow bulletin was distorted, and even Huang Hu, who was below the profound yellow bulletin, let out a mournful wail. Kacha! Kacha! Bursts of cracks appeared on the profound yellow bulletin like beans being fried. One by one, the blood-red names were shattered, and brand new names appeared on the profound yellow bulletin. Although these names were different, they all had the words, Fortune Gate, in front of their heads. Woo-woo. Everyone was shocked, and a burst of screams that were crazier than the howling of the wind rang out. It actually suppressed the sound of the meteors crashing into the profound yellow bulletin. How is this possible? How is this possible? How is this possible? A Dao cultivation sect actually has so many disciples on the profound yellow bulletin? This. How is this still called the profound yellow bulletin? Just call it the bounty bulletin. There's definitely something wrong with the profound yellow bulletin. How can it update so many profound yellow bulletin boards at once? Where did this fortune gate come from? How come I've never heard of it before? How can they have so many disciples? Woo-woo! The crowd exclaimed. The shouts and doubts did not stop. The second wave of wind whistling was heard. The entire whirlpool in the sky turned crimson red. Hundreds of crimson stars flew down again. They collided with the yellow board even more violently than before. The entire yellow board flickered continuously. It was shaking violently as if it was about to collapse. Woo-woo! Everyone exclaimed again. On the profound yellow bulletin, between the 200th and the 300th, it was completely occupied by the names of the Fortune Gates disciples. There were no other Dao cultivation sect's disciples at all. 160 disciples. Gongshu Jingyi was a little dumbfounded. He stole a glance at Xiao Hua, who looked calm in the sky, and murmured in a low voice, even if they're all gold core realm cultivators, this fortune gate is really terrifying. How could other Confucian cultivators not think so when Gongshu Jingyi thought so? They all looked at Xiao Hua doubtfully, thinking about how to quickly report this matter to the sect. Unfortunately, their imagination was still too shallow. Just as they were thinking about how to deal with the fortune gate, woo-woo. Another round of meteor shower unexpectedly came. Boom boom boom. The profound yellow bulletin was once again smashed into pieces by this meteor shower. One by one, the shining names on the profound yellow bulletin refreshed from the 100th to the 200th. What also made the tens of thousands of Confucian cultivators dumbfounded was that these names still carried the brilliance of the fortune gate. Boom. All the disciples present went crazy. Gongshu E. Xian screamed at Gongshu E. Ming, Sister, am I dreaming? What is going on? Is the world going to be rewritten? I don't know. Gong Shu Yiming also stuttered. Now she was also confused. Looking at the shining stars on the profound yellow bulletin, and then looking at the tall and thin figure under the moonlight, and then thinking about what Xiao Hua said to her before, she had already lost her mind. Damn it, damn it. Murong Songyan's beautiful face also lost its color. At this time, how could she not know what was going on? Not only did she regret that she thought herself clever, but she also regretted that she didn't catch this little cultivator with infinite potential. 260 disciples. Murong Zhang's face was ashen, and he whispered, even if they are all golden core disciples, it is definitely the biggest sect in the last 100,000 years. Unfortunately, Murong Zhang's heart was very clear that he was just deceiving himself. If it were only golden core disciples, the profound yellow order wouldn't have sent them to the profound yellow bulletin. Among the 260 disciples of the Fortune Gate, at least half of them were nascent soul disciples. In other words, the Fortune Gate had a total of 130 nascent soul disciples. This was absolutely beyond Murong Zhang's imagination. However, there was only more astonishment, but no more astonishment. Today was destined to shock the profound yellow order, the immortal palace, the entire hidden immortal continent, and all the scholarly families. Woo-woo. Nearly 100 red meteors flew out. This time, although the number of Fortune Gate's disciples was less than 100, these 100 people once again disrupted the top 100 rankings of the Yellow Bulletin. The Great Song Mountain's Taoist master Qing Su, who was originally the first on the Yellow Bulletin, was suddenly pushed down to the 90th place. Li Xiang, Xiong Yi, and Prince Lan, who were previously on the soaring Dragon Mountain range, were now on the Fortune Gate. Chang Yu's name disappeared, and the other 100 or so names of the other Taoist disciples were also smashed into powder. Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, and Li Xiang were now in the top 3 of the Yellow Bulletin. Oh, that's good. An unknown scholarly cultivator slightly breathed a sigh of relief and said, "This old man remembers that Xiong Yi's cultivation is only at the mid-nascent soul stage. Although some of these Fortune Gate's disciples are already at the nascent soul stage, they have just stepped into the nascent soul stage, even if they are only at the early nascent soul stage, there are 300 nascent soul disciples. Isn't this too terrifying?" Another scholarly cultivator said. Meng Cheng's face revealed an indescribable expression as he coldly said, "Two brothers, this old man doesn't know what cultivation Xiong Yi is at, but this old man knows that the Taoist master Qing Su is already at the late nascent soul stage. He only needs a little bit of luck to step into the leaving aperture stage of the 5th level of origin force. How can he be ranked at the 90th place?" So, Murong Zhang said in a deep voice, "Are the 80 Fortune Gate's disciples in front of Taoist master Qing Su all at the late nascent soul stage?" Murong Zhang's gaze swept over Xiao Hua. He knew that if he directly asked Xiao Hua, he would naturally know the answer. Unfortunately, he had already seen Xiao Hua's gradually revealing ferocity. Not to mention him, even if all the scholarly cultivators present stood up and asked Xiao Hua a question, who would dare to say a word? This old man knows. Gongshu Jingye said, because Xiong Yi, Li Xiang, and Prince Lan are the Fortune Gate's commanders, they are ranked at the very front. How much does the Fortune Gate occupy on the Yellow Bulletin? Duanmu Lianheng asked in a daze. Chapter 4489. Brother Duanmu, can't you see for yourself? Meng Cheng asked indifferently. It's easy to recognize. The entire yellow board is filled with Fortune Gate disciples. Other than the 9 Grand Mist Ancestors subordinates, the other 351 names are all Fortune Gate disciples. Is there any meaning to this yellow board? Gongshu Jingye looked at Xiao Hua's back with a complicated gaze. He was a little absent-minded. Does the mysterious yellow board dare to attack these Fortune Gate disciples? After saying that, Gongshu Jingye closed his mouth. The crazed atmosphere disappeared. Everyone held their breaths as they looked at the profound board. The vortex in the sky was spinning more and more violently. The inside of the vortex was like a lightning pool, with thousands of lightning bolts wreaking havoc and thousands of chains dancing in the air. "It's coming, it's coming!" An excited female disciple screamed, pointing at one of the outer vortexes. Sure enough, there was a black star that was much bigger than before. This black star was in the shape of a dragon, and the starlight trailing behind it was like a dragon's tail. Boom! After the black light passed, one of the inscription chains was destroyed, and the last name on the profound board was shattered. When the blood-red clouds flashed, another blood-red name appeared. Fortune Gates Lu Zhen. Wow! Everyone was looking forward to this result, but when they saw this result, they couldn't help but cry out. How is this possible? This Fortune Gates commander is just a mid-nascent soul realm cultivator. How can their disciple reach the out-of-aperture realm? However, after the first wave of clamor, everyone's gaze involuntarily fell on Yuanya. Yuanya claimed to be a Fortune Gate disciple, and his strength was obviously not inferior to a peak 7th grade Origin Energy Martial Grandmaster. Since Yuanya was in front, this Lu Zhen being ranked last on the profound board was nothing, right? After everyone looked at Yuanya, everyone, including the scholarly cultivator family's martial grandmasters, looked at Xiaohua. A common question arose in their hearts. Since Yuanya was a 7th grade Origin Energy Martial Grandmaster, then, as Yuanya's master, Xiaohua's strength, what was his cultivation level? What was the 8th grade Origin Energy Martial Grandmaster's cultivation level? Could it be 9th grade Origin Energy Martial Grandmaster? Xiaohua's mood was different from others. Other than pride, there was only pride in his heart. In the past, he was merely the Yellow List's first place, but now, Lu Zhen, a Fortune Gates disciple whom he didn't even know about, could be ranked on the profound list. Woo, woo. Following that, more and more profound stars flew out from the vortex, breaking everyone's astonishment again and again. Unsurprisingly, all the profound stars that entered the profound list were Fortune Gates disciples. Each and every one of their names lit up the Fortune Gates morning sun like a blazing sun. The brilliance of the scorching sun tore apart the Xian bulletin and occupied nearly 60% of the positions. The updating of the Xian ranking was somewhat different from that of the Huang ranking. Most of the time, names were updated one after another, unlike the Huang ranking. Sometimes, a group of names would be updated, and when the top 20 names began to dim, the entire vortex would stop, as if something was brewing. In contrast to the vortex, the entire space fell silent once again. No one was even willing to breathe loudly. Although they still had a shocking idea in their hearts, they still did not dare to believe it and waited quietly for the Bound of Universe token to be revealed. Wang, wang. The vortex finally moved, and a huge profound star flew out from the vortex. The lightning and chains were shattered by this profound star. The profound star streaked across the space, creating a rumbling sound that shook the entire space. The profound dragons surrounding the profound list were somewhat uneasy, and they struggled with all their might, wanting to rush out of the profound list. Boom! The profound star fell, shattering the 20th name, and Fortune Gates Fujiwen's name was written on it. Ah! Fujiwen? Did the profound yellow list make a mistake? Within the halo, a middle-aged man couldn't help but shout, or maybe it's someone with the same name. My Fu family's Fujiwen should be a Confucian cultivator. How can he be ranked on the profound yellow list? Brother Fu? Don't worry. An old man next to him laughed and said, this is definitely not your Fu family's Fujiwen. Those who can be ranked on the profound list are all Daoist cultivators, and all of them are above the 5th grade of Origin Energy. I've seen your Fujiwen before. Although he has some aptitude, it's impossible for him to cultivate to the 5th grade of Origin Energy in 300 years. Oh, right, I haven't seen Fujiwen for a long time. Which Confucian did he become a disciple of? The middle-aged man laughed and said, I'm not sure about that. Not to mention Fujiwen, I haven't seen him for nearly 200 years. Even his parents seem to have suddenly disappeared. I haven't seen him for many years. The two men's voices weren't loud, but Xiao Hua heard them clearly. Xiao Hua frowned as he looked at the profound list. He somewhat understood. Just as Meng Qing said, Fu Jiwen's cultivation was one of the best among the Fortune Gate's disciples, but he didn't have any descendants. His power on the Shenhua continent was far from the Yu family and Lu family, so he was only qualified to be ranked at the bottom of the profound list. That's not right. Xiao Hua looked at Yuanya beside him and said inwardly, Yuanya is a loner, and his strength can't be compared to Fu Jiwen. How can he be ranked above Fu Jiwen? Oh, I understand. The Immortal Palace must have fought with Fu Jiwen and the others to create this list. Yuanya has always been in the Thousand Demons sacred realm, so his name probably isn't on the profound list. While Xiao Hua was pondering, another black star flew out from his mouth and landed on the profound list. The 18th name shattered, and in a split second, it was revealed to the left of the 57th name, and that 57th name was not a Fortune Gate disciple. Fortune Gate's Wang Biafei. Although they knew that this Xian star was most likely a Fortune Gate's disciple, some of the Confucian cultivators on the star couldn't help but exclaim. Even star-picking Lu's Nanhuayue stole a glance at Xiao Hua and asked in a low voice, Senior. Senior Xiao, are these two seniors really your disciples? Xiao Hua didn't hide anything and nodded. He then looked at Mo Jianli and said with a smile, they're the same as Mo Jianli, but this old man hasn't mentioned it to him yet, so I don't know if he's willing. Mo Jianli had long been fascinated by this scene. He really couldn't believe that the Dao Gates cultivator, who was only a low 4th grade origin Qi cultivator, was now the sect master of a Dao Gates sect. Moreover, this Dao Gates disciple had almost completely refreshed the profound yellow list that the Confucian cultivators were so proud of. What was even more unbelievable was that he had actually become a member of this terrifying sect. Now that he heard Xiao Hua mention him, Mo Jianli hurriedly bowed and said, Senior's gift really makes this junior fearful. It's this junior's honor to be able to enter the Fortune Gate. Good. Xiao Hua nodded, as long as you're willing, this profound yellow list will have your name on it sooner or later. Nanhuayue pursed her lips and said with a smile, Senior Xiao, you've said before that this profound yellow list is the Confucian cultivator's hunting list. What's there to be proud of about being on this list? Xiao Hua's eyes were like stars as he looked at the profound yellow list high in the sky and said with a smile, that was in the past. Today, my Fortune Gate's disciple is on the profound yellow list. In the future, this profound yellow list will become the heroes list of the 3 continents. Xiao Hua's words were quite heroic. If others heard it, they would inevitably think that Xiao Hua was bragging. However, in Nanhuayue's ears, it was so natural. She didn't doubt that the appearance of the Fortune Gate would definitely fulfill Xiao Hua's words. Boom. While they were talking, another profound star flew out and shattered the 15th blood-colored name. The blood-colored name flew to the 50th place and reformed. Fortune Gate's Yuanya. When Yuanya's name appeared, tens of thousands of eyes fell on the bare-handed Yuanya, and noisy discussions rose again. This is Yuanya. He's really powerful to be able to be ranked 15th on the profound list. The strength of the Dao Gates cultivators on this year's profound list is too abnormal. Peak 7th grade origin force is actually only ranked 15th. I remember that 400 years ago, the first place on the profound list was only at 6th grade origin force. The powerful one is the Fortune Gate. Another voice said, within the profound list's top 20, there are already 3 Fortune Gates disciples. I wonder how many of their disciples will be able to enter the profound list. Looking at Yuanya again, although he was the center of attention, these gazes were nothing in his eyes. He simply didn't care about what others saw and only paid attention to Duanmu Lianheng in the distance. He didn't even glance at his own name appearing on the profound list. As for Duanmu Lianheng, he felt bitter in his mouth. Although he knew that Yuanya wouldn't make a sneak attack, he didn't dare to be distracted when facing such an opponent. He could only look at the profound yellow list while being vigilant against Yuanya. At this moment, he was already somewhat regretful. The current fortune gate, not to mention him, even the Duanmu family couldn't be its opponent. Why was he so obsessed at that time to listen to Duanmu Qing's bewitchment? Of course, Duanmu Lianheng's heart was filled with despair because he wasn't the only one who was obsessed. The Duanmu family's absolute kill order was the real reason why the Duanmu family might be annihilated by the Fortune Gate. What other Fortune Gate's disciples are there before Yuanya? A series of questions arose in the hearts of the crowd. Everyone's gaze shifted from Yuanya's calm face to the vortex. Wu. Another profound star appeared and fell into the 11th position. A blood-red name appeared, Fortune Gate's Xian Songzi. Xian Songzi? Xiao Hua was also stunned, and the strangeness in his eyes became even stronger. Because other than protecting Zhai Xingzi and the others in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, Xiao Hua had never let Xian Songzi fight. Xiao Hua couldn't imagine how the profound Yellow Order knew Xian Songzi's strength. Moreover, its evaluation of Xian Songzi's strength was also so objective. Could it be that His Highness Lan has led the Fortune Gate's disciples back to the hidden immortal mainland? How is that possible? At this moment, a scholarly disciple exclaimed, I know this Xian Songzi. When he was still a Golden Core Realm cultivator, he even tried to befriend me. This, how many years has it been, how could he surpass 7th grade essence force? P.S. 3 chapters at noon, no updates at night. Chapter 4490. That's right, that's right. As soon as the Confucian cultivator opened his mouth, more than 10 Confucian cultivators who knew Xian Songzi also shouted, we also know Xian Songzi. It's impossible for him to be on the Xian ranking, let alone be ranked 11th. Miss Nan. Murong Jiang takes a deep breath, suppressing the incomparable horror in his heart, and raises his voice to ask, can your Zhai Xing Lu be sure that this mysterious yellow list is the one issued by the mysterious Yellow Order? Junior can guarantee it. Nan Huayue answered without hesitation, this is the profound yellow proclamation issued by the profound Yellow Order to the entire hidden immortal continent. If Senior Murong doesn't believe me, you can send a message to the Murong family. If any of the names on the profound yellow proclamation are correct, Zhai Xing Lu will return 10 times the source stones. That's not necessary. Murong Jiang waved his hand and said, I just feel that this profound yellow proclamation has a strange feeling. To be honest, I've lived for so long, but I've never seen such a strange thing. Gongshu Jingye's mood was better than all the other Confucian cultivator families. He clearly remembered that a few hours ago, Xiao Hua gave the 5 brocade cloud painting to Gongshu Yisin and Gongshu Yiming in front of him, and said that he would accept them as his disciples. With this sentence, the Gongshu family had a close relationship with the Fortune Gate. No matter how the 100 schools of thought treated the Fortune Gate, the Gongshu family could advance and retreat freely. Now that he heard Murong Jiang's words, he smiled and said, there's no need to be afraid of the profound yellow proclamation's authenticity. Now that we're in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, it's too troublesome to send a message to the family. When we reach the Chitty River, we'll meet the 4 great families. At that time, we'll just have to ask and we'll know. Indeed. Murong Jiang smiled bitterly. He also understood in his heart that with Zhai Xing Lu's ability, how could they make a mistake? Wu. Then, without any suspense, the name, Fortune Gate's Daoist Jingting, appeared in the 10th place. Daoist Jingting was a famous nascent soul cultivator on the hidden immortal continent, and many Confucian cultivators knew him. Suddenly, Xiao Hua thought, the Golden Condor and White Lion's strength is quite good, why aren't they on the profound yellow proclamation? Wu. At this time, another profound star appeared on the profound proclamation, Chang Yuan. She was ranked 8th. Chang Yuan? How could this be? This this is my Chang family's. Chang Yuan? A slightly hoarse voice sounded. Everyone looked inside the halo. An old man with white hair and beard couldn't believe his eyes. He stared at the Xian board and exclaimed, I remember more than 200 years ago, she seemed to have become a disciple of a Confucian cultivator. Naturally, no one would believe the old man's words because the old man was just a borderline master. If he wasn't the leader of an aristocratic family, he definitely wouldn't have the qualifications to sit together with Murongjiang and the other great-grandmasters. Some of the Confucian cultivators who knew the Chang family snorted at the old man's words. How could a 7th-grade Confucian family have a Taoist disciple who was ranked in the top 10 of the profound ranking? Seeing that the people around him didn't believe him, the old man didn't dare to say anything more. He only looked in the other direction and saw that the Fu clan's disciple also had doubts in his eyes. He stared at the Xian ranking and waited. Wu. Another Xian star followed closely behind, and with a boom, it shattered the 7th name, and then the name, Fortune Gates Yu Zhongquan, appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Not bad, not bad. This must be my Chang family's Chang Yuan. The previously doubtful Chang family's old man shouted excitedly. Back then, Chang Yuan and Yu Zhongquan were engaged. If there were people with the same name in this world, there could be one Chang Yuan, but it's impossible for both of them to have the same name. That's right. The Fu clan's Confucian cultivator also shouted, I also think it's impossible. That Fujiwen must be my Fu clan's Fujiwen. Although the profound yellow board was a hunting list, in their eyes, it was also a kind of glory. Fu clan, Chang clan, and the Yu clan who had yet to come to the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, when could they be so conspicuous in front of other aristocratic families? Although the Fu clan and Chang clan knew that only Xiaohua knew the truth, who would dare to ask him? The two Confucian cultivators spoke so loudly, their intention to beat around the bush was self-evident. Xiaohua didn't care about the two aristocratic families. In the past, Yu Zhongquan, Chang Yuan, and Fu Jiwen weren't valued much in his family. Since they had entered the Fortune Gate, they had already separated from his family. Xiaohua looked at the profound board and nodded inwardly. This profound yellow board is quite interesting. It actually detected that Yu Zhongquan and Chang Yuan are husband and wife in such a short time. Among the hundreds of thousands of Fortune Gate disciples, there are indeed many of their descendants. Even 30% of the people on the profound board are their disciples. It makes sense for them to be ranked before Fu Jiwen and Yuanya. Moreover, from the looks of it, among the disciples I arranged, other than Lu Yi and Jiang Hong, most of them have also appeared. There are also some disciples who are stronger than them, either Confucian cultivators or Buddhist cultivators. They usually don't make a move, so the profound yellow board probably didn't detect them in a hurry. Woo-woo. 2 more profound star board names appeared, falling to the 4th and 5th place. Above them were Fortune Gates Lu Yi and Fortune Gates Jiang Hong. Boom. The crowd of Confucian cultivators went crazy again. The Fortune Gates disciples had almost completely dominated the profound board. On the profound board, 60% of the 160 positions were also occupied by the Fortune Gates disciples. Only 10% belonged to the Grand Mist Ancestors' forces, and the remaining 30% were Tao Gates secluded cultivators. As for the top 20 positions, other than the top 3, the Fortune Gates disciples occupied more than half of the 17 positions. Although the crowd was already prepared, they were still shocked by this unbelievable list. The discussion stopped when the last Xian star appeared. Under the starry sky, there was complete silence. Everyone's eyes were fixed on this Xian star. Although this Xian star didn't look any different from the other Xian stars, when it fell into the vortex, it was extremely heavy. It was as if the arrival of this profound star signified the arrival of an era, and the fall of this profound star signified the end of an era. The profound star shot straight to the top of the profound board, and there was no surprise. Tens of thousands of pairs of eyes lit up as they wanted to witness this moment. Boom. With a loud rumble, the profound board shone brightly, and the color of blood overflowed. The words, Fortune Gates Xiaohua, appeared at the top of the profound board. Whether it was the Great Desolate Mountain's Grand Mist Ancestor, Lianghui Ridge's Daoist Rider, or even the Burning Glaze Pools in Yezi, all of them turned into fragments and moved to the bottom of the profound board. Profound board's first place. It's really the profound board's first place. Murong Jiang blurted out. Shao. Daoist Shao actually has this kind of strength. Gongshu Jingyi growled, Daoist Shao actually surpassed the legendary Grand Mist Ancestor? Could it be that his strength is even more powerful than the Grand Mist Ancestor? Meng Qing explained with a smile, Daoist Shao may not be as strong as the Grand Mist Ancestor, but his fortune gate is too powerful, so he occupies the first place of the profound board. Boom, boom, boom. While everyone was discussing, a loud rumble of thunder came from the profound board. The profound board, which was originally overflowing with auspicious qi and covered by rosy clouds, suddenly burst open. Strands of golden light shot out like spider silk towards the 5 words, Fortune Gates Xiaohua. As soon as the golden light appeared, the 5 words immediately shattered. Every stroke of the 5 inscriptions turned into dozens of thunderbolts, and with overwhelming power, they rushed towards the whirlpool. Wherever the thunderbolts passed, whether it was the 5 qi righteous lightning or the inscription chains, everything was swept away. When the thunderbolts fell into the whirlpool, the entire whirlpool collapsed. Countless black and white lights flickered, and a terrifying aura rushed out from the collapsing whirlpool. Sigh, Xiaohua, isn't it just a profound yellow board? How did you make such a big commotion? A sweet voice came from the starry sky, and then hundreds of flowers bloomed and rushed into the collapsing whirlpool. In just a moment, the entire transmission channel began to slowly disappear. When Xiaohua heard Fairy Xing use words, he shrugged helplessly and said with a smile, "This has nothing to do with me. I'm just watching from the side." Puff. When the starry sky regained its calm, another ray of moonlight rushed out from the full moon and landed on the shattered profound board. Like a broken mirror, the shattered pieces were instantly restored. At this time, the Grand Mist Ancestor and the other 2 were still in front of the profound board. The whole place was silent, and no one dared to speak. No one knew what had happened. Even the strong scholars like Murong Jiang and Gongshu Jingye didn't know why Xiaohua's name couldn't be written on the profound yellow board. Senior Xiao. Duanmu Lianheng's thoughts turned rapidly, and he hurriedly said in the silence, "My Duanmu family was deceived by the side-branch disciple Duanmu Qing and offended Senior. Junior apologizes to Senior on behalf of my Duanmu family." With that, Duanmu Lianheng bowed respectfully. Seeing the arrogant Duanmu Lianheng apologize in front of all the scholarly cultivator families, Xiaohua's heart softened. Thinking about his fate with the Duanmu family, some of the reasons were related to him falling into the devil path, so he couldn't completely blame the Duanmu family. As for Duanmu Liangsheng, Xiaohua no longer had any resentment after coming out of the misty mountain maze formation. Thus, he waved his hand and said, "Forget it. The so-called scholarly cultivator families should prioritize etiquette and restrain their disciples. Don't bully others with your power, especially the common people. They don't even have the strength to truss a chicken. If you don't have the self-restraint of a scholarly cultivator, how can they be willing to submit to you? In the long run, scholarly cultivators will lose their original intention." Yes, Junior understands. Although Duanmu Lianheng was arrogant and dared to destroy Nanwu Great Merciful Guanin's golden statue, he knew his own limits. Although Xiaohua's current strength seemed to be around the 5th grade, he was able to suppress the Grand Mist Ancestor and become the first on the profound board. How could Xiaohua's cultivation be something he could reach? Hearing Xiaohua's words, he was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "Junior will send a disciple back to the family and remove that damn absolute kill order." Chapter 4491. That won't be necessary. You might as well use that dictum of death as a lesson. Xiaohua said with a smile, looking at Duanmu Lianheng with interest. Duanmu Lianheng was stunned. At first, he didn't understand. After all, with the existence of the dictum of death, the Duanmu family and the Fortune Gate were enemies. The Duanmu family might not care about Xiaohua, but they were afraid of the Fortune Gate. However, a moment later, Duanmu Lianheng's heart trembled. He immediately understood Xiaohua's meaning. Because Xiaohua didn't care about the Duanmu family's dictum of death, even if he was facing the Duanmu family's patriarch, Duanmu Tianji. Where did Xiaohua get his courage from? Not only because of the Fortune Gate in Xiaohua's hands, but also because of Xiaohua's own strength. The Duanmu family's patriarch was at least a literature star. If Xiaohua didn't care, then Xiaohua's strength was definitely at 9th grade essence force. Realizing Xiaohua's true strength, Duanmu Lianheng's face heated up. He knew that this was Xiaohua's punishment for the Duanmu family. After all, no matter how powerful the Duanmu family was, they were a first-class family. Throughout the history of Confucian cultivators, there had never been a Confucian family that dared to issue a dictum of death to a 9th grade essence force cultivator. Since the Duanmu family dared to do something that no one dared to do, from today onwards, anyone who mentioned the Duanmu family's dictum of death would naturally treat it as the Duanmu family's humiliation. Senior knows. Duanmu Lianheng said respectfully, Junior doesn't dare to make a decision on this matter. After we reach the Star Moon Palace, Junior will ask the Patriarch to personally make a decision. All right. Xiaohua had no intention of arguing with Duanmu Lianheng and casually waved his hand. Many thanks, Senior. Duanmu Lianheng hurriedly retreated, not daring to say anything more. As for Duanmu Qing, whose dantian had already been shattered by Yuanya, needless to say, the Duanmu family definitely wouldn't dare to let her live. Senior. Duanmu Lianheng had just retreated when Murongjiang flew out again. He bowed and said, this junior also offended you that day. Since brother Duanmu has asked for forgiveness, this junior will also ask for forgiveness. In Xiaohua's eyes, Duanmu Lianheng and Murongjiang were slightly different. Xiaohua didn't like Murongjiang's schemes. He glanced at Yuanya. He said, yeah, give him a punch his teat. Don't kill him. Yes, master. Receiving the order, without demur, Yuanya waved his right hand, and his fist shot out like a meteor. Murongjiang knew that this was the end of the karma of the day when he had punched Xiaohua in front of the god and devil's blood pool. He was secretly happy in his heart, and hastily urged his true chi to resist. Boom! Yuanya's fist hit Murongjiang and a soft rumbling sound was heard. Although Murongjiang had already resisted, but his defensive Jin Qi was still crushed by the fist with irresistible force. A strange aura, which seemed to be the nemesis of righteous Qi, invaded Murongjiang's body. In particular, Yuanya's fist carried a kind of invincible power, and Murongjiang's body was sent flying far away like a pebble. A moment later, Murongjiang's complexion turned pale, and he flew back in a somewhat sorry state. Xiaohua nodded and said, the grudges between you and me can be considered settled. There's no need to mention it again in the future. However, this Xiao still wants to remind you that no one in this world is much smarter than another. You might be able to scheme for a while, but you won't be able to scheme for a lifetime. Any scheme will be exposed sooner or later. Yes, this junior understands. Murongjiang didn't dare to say too much. While suppressing his injuries, he replied. All right. Miss Nan. Xiaohua turned to Nan Huayue and said, this Xiao is going to see the palace master. Send me there. Senior, please. Nan Huayue respectfully raised her hand and pointed. The full moon once again overflowed with moonlight. N. Xiaohua nodded and said to Mo Jianli, you and Yuanya, come with this old man. Yes, senior. Mo Jianli respectfully replied, but Yuanya didn't utter a word. He followed Xiaohua into the full moon, and when Mo Jianli also stepped into the full moon, the entire challenge starry sky suddenly became a boiling cauldron of voices. All the Confucian cultivators had gone crazy. They all talked at once, and everyone had a kind of excitement. That's right. How many Confucian cultivators on the hidden immortal continent could see such a grand scene with their own eyes? Not to mention the Confucian cultivators of the star-picking tower, even the entire hidden immortal continent went crazy. Today's update of the mysterious yellow list was a special event for the Fortune Gates disciples. The Fortune Gates disciples were like stars, illuminating the entire hidden immortal continent. After the time it took to eat a meal, the entire space gradually calmed down. Nan Huayue said with a smile on her face, "Seniors, let bygones be bygones. The challenge starry sky is just a competition. There are many more to come." Sigh. Meng Qing sighed and said, "Back then, when this old man recited the ancient saying, 'There is a scenery before my eyes, but I can't see the way,' Cui Hao wrote a poem on it, I always felt that it wasn't good enough. Now that I've seen Taoist Master Zhao's generosity, our so-called challenge starry sky is really insignificant. Why do we have to mention it again? This time, it's fine if we don't compete." Nan Huayue nodded and said, "If that's the case, then this junior will make it clear. Although seniors don't plan to continue the challenge starry sky, the source stones that seniors paid, forget it, forget it. Don't mention those vulgar things again." Meng Qing waved his hand and said, "If the source stones aren't refunded, then so be it." "Thank you so much, Senior Meng." Nan Huayue replied with a smile. However, before she could finish, Gongshu Jingye's heart stirred again and he said, "Miss Nan, this old man knows that your Zhai Xing Lu possesses many secrets of the 3 continents. There are even many that were lost by my 100 schools of thought. How about this, we won't refund the source stones for the challenge starry sky. You only need to tell us why Taoist Master Zhao's name can't be written on the profound proclamation." This. Nan Huayue hesitated and said, "This junior doesn't know if this is possible. Please wait a moment." Soon after, Nan Huayue fell into the full moon and disappeared. She only reappeared after the time it took to finish a meal. There seemed to be nothing out of the ordinary from her calm face, but the wisp of surprise revealed in her pair of bright eyes explained the shock of the news. "Miss Nan," Gongshu Jingyi asked in a deep voice, "can Zhai Xing Lu give us an answer?" Nan Huayue nodded and said, "My Zhai Xing Lu does have records of this. However, does seniors agree with seniors' decision?" "This old man agrees," Murong Jiang said without hesitation. Although he knew in his heart that as long as he returned to the Murong family, he would definitely know the reason, but how could he wait until then? Curiosity killed the cat not only for female cultivators, but when men wanted to know secrets, their hearts would itch to the point of being scratched by a cat. Seeing that Murong Jiang and Gongshu Jingyi both agreed, the other families also agreed. Their eyes were full of desire, and they stared at Nan Huayue as if they were cats looking at meat. Nan Huayue's gaze swept across the entire starry sky, then looked at the profound yellow proclamation that was still suspended high in the sky, flashing with blood-red light. She took a deep breath and said, "According to my Zhai Xing Lu's records, the profound yellow proclamation is an imperial tool built with the fate of Confucian cultivators and the order of heaven and earth as its foundation. As long as a cultivator's name is written on it, the cultivator's strength must be lower than the Confucian cultivator who refined the imperial tool. Otherwise, the cultivator's name won't be written on the profound yellow proclamation." "How is that possible?" Meng Qing exclaimed. "It said that the profound yellow proclamation was personally refined by the Ziwei immortal emperor in ancient times. Could it be that Zhenren Zhao's strength has surpassed the Ziwei immortal emperor's? If he had surpassed the Ziwei immortal emperor, he would have already ascended to heaven, right?" Murong Jiang also held back his injuries and exclaimed. "Seniors, this junior doesn't know." Nan Huayue smiled apologetically. "This is my Zhai Xing Lu's record. If Senior Shao can't enter the profound proclamation, it's probably the reason." Then, Gongshu Jingyi asked again, who refined the profound yellow proclamation. Does your Zhai Xinglu have a record of it? We can buy this information with primeval stones. Senior, I'm sorry to disappoint you. This junior has just checked. My Zhai Xinglu has no record of this. Nan Huayue understood Gongshu Jingye's mood and hurriedly replied. Alas, all right. Gongshu Jingyi waved his hand and sighed, thank you for your trouble, Miss Nan. I wouldn't dare. If seniors don't have any orders, this junior will return now. Nan Huayue respectfully said as she stood quietly in the air. After a while, Murong Jiang asked again, Daoist Shao, is he also going to enter the Star Moon Palace? Sorry, this junior doesn't know. Nan Huayue smiled and shook her head. All right, you can go now. Gongshu Jingyi waved his hand. Many thanks, seniors. Just as Nan Huayue was about to turn around, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. She tilted her head and listened for a moment before a smile appeared on her face. She bowed to the group of Confucian cultivators and said, Junior is under orders to reveal some information about the Fortune Gate to seniors. If seniors are willing, quickly say it. How many primeval stones? Murong Jiang asked without hesitation. Brother Murong, don't be anxious. Gongshu Jingyi smiled and said, we will first discuss with the Zhai Xinglu. This information is actually outdated and has no value. If we are not anxious, we can wait until we return to the hidden immortal continent to know. Gongshu Jingyi looked at Nan Huayue and said with a smile, Miss Nan, don't you agree? Nan Huayue smiled and said, Senior is right, but also wrong. Because a lot of this information is unique to my Zhai Xinglu. No one on the hidden immortal continent will have the chance to hear it. All right. We will discuss it first. Meng Cheng and the others naturally understood the meaning behind Nan Huayue's words. Xiao Hua was inside the Zhai Xinglu. Who would know more about the Fortune Gate than Xiao Hua? After a short discussion, Meng Cheng said a few words to Nan Huayue through voice transmission. Nan Huayue nodded, and after the various families took out a considerable amount of primeval stones, Nan Huayue respectfully handed a jade eye to Meng Cheng. Meng Cheng received the jade eye and scanned it with his divine sense. His face paled as he exclaimed, This, how is this possible? Senior Meng, nothing is impossible. Nan Huayue smiled and said, otherwise, how could the Fortune Gate's disciples clean the entire mysterious yellow list? Brother Meng. Murong Jiang called out, what is inside? Why are you so shocked? You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.